Returning from Fina City, Lu Feng, the lord of Taeduong City, hurriedly rushed to his desk, diligently working on a pile of papers. Seeing this, Mina Thuong Lu Feng immediately reminded him. Young master, you just returned from Fina City yesterday. You should rest a bit more. I'm very worried about you, Lord. Yeah. I know, Mina. But I've got a lot of work to do on the go. If you let political stuff like this drag on for too long, it could get worse. Ellie stood across from the desk and spoke anxiously. Sorry, young master. These tasks are all important matters for the development of Xi'an City. That's why I left them here and waited for you to come back and approve them. Lu Feng spoke calmly, his voice full of reassurance. It's okay, it's okay. Fortunately, with you, Xi'an City can operate normally. I was already surprised to be able to do this. Hi. Ellie was happy to be praised by the Lord. She blushed and continued reporting to Lu Feng. Oh, that's right, young master. The Joseon City Lord's war horse and carriage have arrived some time ago. Lu Feng replied. Faster than I thought. Ox 5. I want you to go to Saha grassland for a trip. Discuss the matter of importing goat meat with the tribal chief there. There are not many types of meat in our western city anymore. I'm afraid that in another half-month, Taeduong City will be short of all kinds of meat. Ngu. Yes, I will answer. Yes, I understand. After that, everyone was very tense listening to Lu Feng speak. This event in the previous Divine Kingdom, we were both caught off guard because we didn't receive the news early. Lu Feng continued seriously. Xi'an City must develop its business situation. That way, when facing a crisis, it won't be too passive. I'm thinking like this. I want to establish a security bureau. Mina will be the director, and Sink will be the deputy director. Mina and Sink's eyes lit up with excitement when they heard this. Lu Feng continued. On the outside, this security bureau is to deliver ordinary mail. In reality, it is to send our people to the cities to collect intelligence. This is the specific operation of the security department along with the way of transporting intelligence. After saying that, Lu Feng placed the decision he had just signed and handed it to the guard Sink. Mina and Sink dutifully obeyed. Yes. At the same time, on Lelis's side, she was restless waiting for Lu Feng to arrive. After waiting for a long time, Lu Feng finally arrived. Seeing Lu Feng, Lelisa exclaimed. City Lord, what kind of work do you plan to give to the 5th rank? Lu Feng replied slowly and happily. I heard that their archery is very good. I want to form an excellent elf sniper squad in Xi'an City. Lelisa asked doubtfully. Sniper squad? What is it, Lord? Lu Feng explained gently. Snipers hide in a hidden place. Use crossbows to kill and assassinate enemies at a very long distance. Hearing this, Lelisa asked again. Excuse me, are you using those bows from the other day? Lu Feng nodded in response. Yes, that bow is the standard configuration for the elf squad. I will make each of you an additional bow. The treatment is a monthly salary of 1 gold coin. In the military camp, there are 2 days off each month. Of course, there will be a vacation after completing the mission. Hearing this, Lelisa was in disbelief. She was stunned and bewildered. This is, she thought to herself. A monthly salary of 1 gold coin and 2 days off. This treatment is too good. Lu Feng continued enthusiastically. Your military base is independent. It will not be shared with other armies. I will send Mina to train you. How about it, Lelisa, what do you think? Lelisa happily replied. Yes. Lord, 5th rank agrees to be a sniper. Lelisa raised her hand to her chest, showing great determination. Lu Feng raised his hands to the sky after hearing this, expressing his satisfaction and joy. Seeing Lu Feng's expression, Ellie stood to the side, lost in thought. What the hell is he doing? Flay also widened his eyes. He glared at Lu Feng, also like, why is this guy so stupid right now? Seeing Flay staring at him like that, Lu Feng finally remembered. He rubbed Flay's head and said. Almost forgot to agree with Flay before going to Dangung City. Lu Feng continued speaking, his face now beaming. It's been a long wait. Don't worry, I'll send the baby to heaven now. Flay happily nodded repeatedly. Flay replied softly and happily. Yes. Hearing this conversation, Ellie also happily shouted. Young master, I am very curious about how people can go to heaven. Lu Feng also responded with interest. Okay, then everyone come with me to see. Scene change, at the scientific research site of Taeduong. At this time, the sky is blue, the sun is yellow, and the white clouds are gently floating. It seems the weather is very nice and clear. When they saw the city lord arrive, everyone politely greeted him in unison. Greetings, city lord. Lu Feng asked everyone gently. How is the hot air balloon experiment going? The clerk buff gently replied to Lu Feng. City lord, the hot air balloon is complete. It's just that. We still haven't found anyone to experiment with. Looking at the top of the hot air balloon, Ellie asked Lu Feng. Young master, can that cloth bag really take people to the sky? Lu Feng gently explained to Ellie. That's right, this is a hot air balloon, built on the principle of hot air rising. Ellie tilted her head, wondering. The air was getting hotter. Lu Feng began to recall the general knowledge he had learned in school. He spoke very slowly and gently to explain to Ellie. Listen carefully, in the world we live in, all objects have density. Density is the mass per unit volume of a substance, a type of property. Now, look out at the Yutui River and throw a stone down. A stone will sink in water, right? But a tree branch floats on the surface of a river. For this reason, air is no exception. Lu Feng continued to explain enthusiastically. The heavier cold air pushes down, while the lighter hot air rises. Hot air has a low density, so the hot air will float. Meanwhile, the denser cold air will sink to the bottom. This creates a lifting force to push the balloon up. Ellie listened for a while and felt sad. Okay, young master. Is that so? Mina shouted loudly at this moment. It's floating, look, it's really floating. Wow wow wow, that cloth bag is bulging. Ellie said in surprise. At this moment, Flay pulled Lu Feng's sleeve, her eyes sparkling as she blinked as if she wanted to please Lu Feng. She spoke in a cute childish voice. Lord Lu Feng, I want to go up too. Lu Feng replied warmly to Flay. Okay, then let's go up first. While Lu Feng was busy waving to everyone below, little Flay kept urging. Lord Lu Feng, hurry up, hurry up. Lu Feng replied, take it slow. He waved to Mina and everyone. Okay, Mina and everyone wait for me here. Everyone below nodded in agreement. Lu Feng and little girl Flay walked step by step towards the hot air balloon. In just a moment, the hot air balloon slowly rose. As it rose, the mischievous little girl Flay looked down and said, Lord Lu Feng, look, below is Xi'an City. The hot air balloon is really flying high. Wow, this is so eye-catching. The scenery is so beautiful, Lu Feng. Lu Feng looked at the little girl and replied. I know, slow down, don't fall down. At this moment, Flay suddenly remembered the time when she still had wings and could fly. The little girl was moved to tears. When her wings were still fine, she could fly so high. Lu Feng looked at Flay gently, warmly and affectionately. It's okay, Flay, your wings will definitely grow out. As he spoke, he patted Flay's head. Flay was delighted. Yes, I believe in Lord Lu Feng. After circling the blue sky, the hot air balloon landed. Seeing that, Mr. Buff asked. City Lord, is the hot air balloon okay? He worriedly asked City Lord Lu Feng while wiping his sweat. Lu Feng happily replied. It's okay, the hot air balloon is very safe, the experiment was a success. Ellie had been watching Lu Feng and Flay flying, and now she rushed towards Lu Feng and asked. Young master, is it fun up there? Can I sit in the hot air balloon for a while? Ellie's eyes lit up, her hands clenched tightly, waiting for Lu Feng's answer. Lu Feng saw this and happily said. Of course it's possible. After Mina and Lelisa finished speaking, they both spoke up. Young master, I also want to try going up. Ellie was unhappy when she saw everyone wanting to go up in the hot air balloon. Lu Feng was also sweating profusely. He happily responded. Okay, it's fine, everyone has a chance. I'll take Ellie up first. After saying that, Ellie and Lu Feng boarded the hot air balloon. Ellie, unlike her previous aggressive tone, was now scared and hugged Lu Feng tightly. Lu Feng said very gently. Don't be afraid, Ellie. This hot air balloon is very safe as long as it doesn't fly too high. Ellie was still scared. She clung to Lu Feng tightly. I'm far from scared. Suddenly, she stopped screaming when she saw the scene in the western city. She exclaimed. How beautiful. Then Ellie fell into deep thought. It seemed like he could guess Ellie's thoughts. Lu Feng asked. Missing home? Me. Ellie accidentally hit her head on the wall of the hot air balloon. Ouch, it hurt so much, she staggered, couldn't stand, and almost made Ellie fall out of the balloon. Lu Feng saw this and quickly reached out to grab Ellie. Ellie, be careful. Just then she suddenly opened her eyes and realized something. Their lips met unexpectedly. Both of them were embarrassed and blushed. Ellie's heart began to tremble. Me, did I just kiss the young master? Thinking of this, Ellie was startled and turned around. She shyly thought to herself, I have kissed the young master too. Thinking, Ellie brought her hand to her lips and felt it. Oh my god, her heart was beating so fast, it couldn't stop. Then she covered her mouth and turned her head to look at Lu Feng. Lu Feng was also embarrassed, scratching his head and said, Oh, just now. Ellie turned her face away again. I was just curious about how my hometown had changed. Just now, it was an accident. I won't tell Mina and everyone. Oh my god, Ellie thought to herself. What the hell am I talking about? To cut through the awkwardness of the atmosphere, Lu Feng draped a green cloak over Ellie and interrupted her. Don't worry, wait until I research a more powerful hot air balloon, then I'll take you home to see. Really? Ellie looked at Lu Feng with emotion. Lu Feng smiled gently and replied. Of course it's true. Ellie was no longer shy and said confidently. I believe you, young master. Then, she grabbed Lu Feng's sleeve tightly. The two men landed from the hot air balloon to the amused admiration of everyone. Scene change, in the vast Sahara steppe, full of sunshine and wind, the steppe is fresh and green. Here, herds of goats and cows are grazing. This is the peaceful living territory of the beast tribe. At the beast tribe's chief's hut, Chief Elsa was listening to reports from her subordinates. The subordinate said nervously. Your Highness. The merchants came to the tribe and raised the price of salt to the highest level. We don't have much money left. Elsa was angry, she slammed her hand on the table. She said. Those cunning merchants. Chase them all away. From now on, we will not do business with them anymore. Humph, yes, Your Highness, the subordinate continued. However, without salt, people will have no strength and will be easily invaded by other tribes. Elsa interrupted her female subordinate. She said. Okay, I know, I will think of a way. Elsa was tense, deep in thought. She put her chin on her hands and racked her brain to think of a way to solve the problem. She thought of Ellie. If Ellie were here right now, she would have a way to solve this. Unlike me, who only knows how to go to the battlefield to kill. She began to recall the past. 5 years ago, I had established a beastman tribe on an oasis in the center of the Sahara Desert, attracting beastmen from the surrounding areas to come and help. The current scale had reached 30,000 beastmen. Although the tribe had fought over territory, the situation was still considered relatively stable. The problem is that although the tribe has domesticated many buffalo, goats, and horses, the human race, because we are beastmen, is rarely willing to trade goods back and forth. As a result, the tribe only has livestock, and money is scarce, making it very difficult to buy necessities. While lost in his thoughts, the tribe leader suddenly heard the news from his subordinates who ran in to report. Your Highness, there is a group of drug dealers outside our tribe who are requesting an audience. The leader is the Blackwater City Lord, who has done business with us before. What? A human merchant group? Leader Elsa was surprised, not believing her ears. She asked again in doubt. Are the merchants really human? The female subordinate quickly replied. Yes, it was a large merchant group, with more than 100 people. Elsa heard and thought to herself. A caravan of more than 100 people? Baron, the Lord of Blackwater City. I remember he had a deal with our tribe. When did they become so large? Then, Elsa gave an order and led them to the living room. The female servant quickly replied. Yes, Princess. After arriving at the living room, the Baron Lord greeted the leader. Hello, leader. Hello, sir, please sit down. Mr. Baron continued. Chief, I am Baron, who has had dealings with your tribe before. Next to me is Mr. Ngu. Mr. Ngu bowed. Greetings, Chief. Leader Elsa calmly raised her teacup and said. May I ask if your Excellency Baron is here to buy a goat or a horse? Lord Baron quickly pointed over. Yes, sir. Here, sir. This is the person who wants to buy your goats and horses. Let me introduce Mr. Ngu. I am just the person who introduced him, sir. Elsa looked at Ngungu suspiciously. She said. Oh really? May I ask where is Mr. Ngungu from? Nyowu politely replied. I come from Xiang City. The Baron also added. Leader. Xiang City is a city in the west. The city lord is Lu Feng. He is a very talented Baron. Leader Elsa replied. Oh, I see. Then she thought to herself. What city is Taeduongtan? Never heard of this city before. It seems to be a small, remote city. At this time, Ngungu took out a letter and gave it to Leader Elsa and said. Leader. The city lord wrote a letter and asked me to deliver it to you. Elsa was surprised. What? He even wrote a letter to me. I've read the letter. So let me ask Mr. Nyo. In your letter, the city lord wants to buy a large quantity of goats and draft horses. I wonder how many exactly. As she spoke, Elsa thought and looked down on Xiang City. How many goats could a small baron in the wilderness buy? Even 200? Those 200 were like a drop in the ocean to us, insignificant and useless. After hearing the question, Gungo calmly replied, we plan to buy 2,000 goats every month. Ha? Elsa was shocked and surprised. What? 2,000? And in just 1 month? She thought happily. This was already the biggest transaction our tribe had ever made. Nyo also happily replied. Right? These 2,000 goats are just the first transaction. If it goes well, we will increase the transaction in the future. 1 month is 10,000 goats. Elsa asked again. What about the price? She thought to herself. 10,000, such a large quantity, a slightly lower price is also acceptable. Nyo replied with a smile. We can sell half a kilo of goat meat for 14 coins. Ha? What? Elsa's eyes widened in surprise. 14 coins. This price is not much different from the market price. They didn't take the opportunity to squeeze us out. Nyo happily continued. Leader Elsa, what do you think of the price? If there is nothing else, we can pay with gold coins now. In addition, we have also brought a specialty from the Western Ocean City, which can also be exchanged. Opening the box of specialties, Elsa looked at the box in confusion. What are these? Nyo replied. Yes, leader, these are goods that we in Xiang City have created and produced ourselves. Is this salt? Leader Elsa touched the fine salt powder. She wondered again. Why is it so white like snow? Then she brought her hand to her mouth and tasted it. Moreover, there was no bitter taste at all. Yes, Nyo replied with a smile. That's right. This is salt made using our young master's secret method. It doesn't have the bitter taste of the usual salt your tribe uses. We brought here 100 kilos of salt. The price is according to the market price. 30 coins for half a kilo or 60 coins for 1 kilo. Leader Elsa looked surprised. She couldn't believe her ears. Only 30 coins for half a kilo? She suddenly thought back. Those human merchants were selling poor quality salt. They charged me 36 coins for half a kilo. All right, my lady. Open some more wine and try it. Yes, princess. The cork of the wine bottle was just popped, and a fragrant aroma wafted out. The guards outside the small living room were drooling. It really smelled good. Where did that fragrant smell come from? The female servant tasted the wine. She exclaimed. Your Highness. The wine is so delicious. The wine tasting leader also had to exclaim. This is truly good wine. She thought to herself. This wine is even better than the wine I drank in the beastman's palace's beast-like palace. The best wine. Ngungu continued to introduce himself. This is a special wine made using the young master's secret recipe. In the whole world, only Taeduong City produces it. Now, please open another jar, leader. It is a delicious snack. As soon as he opened the snack, the leader took a piece and put it in his mouth to enjoy. She exclaimed. Oh, this smell. What is this? Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm frolicking in the ocean. Biting into the soft, sweet fresh fish. Nyo happily answered. This is the fish meat topping. It is also specially made according to the young master's secret method. Only Xiang City can produce it. But I'll tell you, boss. This last thing is the same. If boss doesn't mind, you can open it and see. Here it is. The leader was surprised after opening the basket of vegetables. Here it is. She was surprised as she picked up a leaf and bit into it to taste. Oh my god, this is real green cabbage. The leader's face was full of surprise. His expression was one of disbelief. Seeing the leader's expression, Nyo was even more impressed. That's right, he said proudly. This is also the young master of our family who used a magical technique to grow this type of green cabbage in winter. All the specialties were displayed before the leader: refined salt, wine, fish meat, and green vegetables. The leader was stunned for a moment, not knowing what to say. Ngungu continued to speak happily. If the leader agrees, we can provide goods from Taeduong City every month for trading. And we guarantee that the price of the goods will not be higher than the market price, sir. The leader heard this and quickly agreed. Okay, I agree to trade with everyone. But, I hope to meet with Lu Feng next spring. Discussing the business of selling 10,000 goats a month is really good. There is also the business of selling salt, wine, jars of head, and even green cabbage. Yes, Ngungo politely replied to the leader. I will pass on the message to our young master. After the Baron and Nyo Wu group left, the female subordinate happily congratulated the leader. Your Highness, that's great. The salt matter is resolved like this, and there's also a big business deal for our tribe. Leader Elsa replied. Yes, this Western City Lord came at the right time. Lu Feng City Lord, who exactly is he? How could he do such miraculous and unimaginable things? Why have I never heard of him before? Now, under the mysterious flickering firelight in the Jeep Tavern. The Lord of Xi'an City, his name is Lu Feng. I'll tell you the truth, I've never heard of him before. Are you sure you want to send at least 100 assassins just to kill that Lu Feng? The price will be high, sir. The mysterious man in black, covered from head to toe in black, carefully spoke to Sharo, the son of Count Pulley. Sharo listened and affirmed firmly. I am certain. Having said that, Sharo fell into deep thought. His Majesty the Emperor's body was getting weaker by the day. The first prince and second prince were constantly fighting for power. The fourth prince could only rise up in rebellion if he had a chance to become king. The plan to assassinate the city lord Lu Feng this time was to help Homa and Adam take revenge, and to take advantage of the situation to recruit Lu Feng's army under his command. Sharo sipped the wine in his hand and continued to think. At that time, I will have another right-hand man to help the fourth prince fight for the throne. After the fourth prince successfully ascends the throne, father will definitely be able to take another step closer to his title. Becoming a duke. Sharo finished his train of thought and turned to the mysterious man. As long as the matter could be successful, no matter how much money was spent, it wouldn't matter. After hearing that it didn't matter how much money was spent, the mysterious man happily replied. Don't worry, my lord. Once we accept a request, we will never stop. My lord, go home, rest, and wait for good news. After the exchange, the hooded man pulled the door open and left the pub and jeep. At this time, in the main street of Taeduong City, the assassin sent by Bounty to assassinate Lu Feng was hiding behind a surrounding wall. He looked at the scale, order and security in Taeduong City. He was a bit worried and thought, the surveillance was too strict. He thought to himself as he watched the groups of guards walking back and forth. There was always order here, everyone was doing their job and responsibilities well, it was very difficult to find a loophole or opportunity to take advantage of and assassinate the city lord. The assassin Fang sighed in frustration and turned to leave. As he walked, he kept thinking of ways. If he wanted to kill Lu Feng, he would have to find another way. Now, at Fate Pizza, the waiter was warmly greeting Flay. Aha, is that Miss Flay? Here to buy pizza again, little girl? What flavor do you want today? Flay replied indifferently. I want beef flavor, large size. The counter person said happily. Okay, so you still want to take it home? Flay nodded in response. That's right. The handsome pizza seller continued happily. Yes, please wait a moment. I'll wrap it up for you right away. At the same time, the assassin Fangs was sitting at the table next to Flay, eating a piece of pizza. He had been listening for a while now, so he knew that this girl was Flay. He thought while biting into the pizza. According to the intelligence, it seemed that this girl named Flay had a very good relationship with the lord of the Western Yang City, Lu Feng, who was currently living in the castle. Just by learning about the castle's internals from her, I might be able to find a loophole to infiltrate, use the paralyzing poison I'm proud of, and silently kill the target. A moment later, the pizza was done. The handsome man standing there holding the pizza said, Miss Flay, your pizza is done, $6, ma'am. As he spoke, he stood at the counter and handed Flay a large box of beef pizza. Flay took it and hummed softly, then gave 6 coins to the counter owner. The assassin Fang silently followed Flay. Out on the street, he waved to Flay. Little girl, can I talk to you about something? Flay replied coldly. No way. The assassin Fangs froze, not understanding why he was suddenly so rude. This guy still shamelessly followed, whining to Flay. I just wanted to ask a little question. Little girl, you are really cute. Maybe. The assassin hadn't finished speaking when little Flay interrupted him. No, it couldn't be. The assassin Fangs's mind was now in turmoil, his head was in turmoil. He tried his best to calm himself down and encourage himself. He had to calm down, he had to be patient. This was just an unusual conversation. Her mind might be abnormal. I just need to ask her about the structure of the castle. That's it. Fangs, keep it up. You can do it. He continued to follow Flay. Little girl, this matter is very important to me. He spoke in a cute tone to deceive children. He continued to entice. Just say it, I will give you $10. Flay still had a straight face, not bothering to answer him. He continued to raise the price. $20. Oh no, $30. Okay, $50. This is the last time. Flay's expression remained unchanged. She stood still, watching the clown in front of her. Fangs persisted. Or a silver coin. Then 10 silver coins. That's all you have. He just wanted to know the structure of the castle. Hearing this, Flay's eyes turned cold. Flay immediately jumped into the air, leaving him bewildered and wondering where the person had gone. Suddenly, little Flay kicked straight down on Fang's shoulder. Crack, it sounded like a bone breaking. With a bang, Fangs fell to the ground. He still held the money bag tightly, his mouth gasping. What? What happened? Flay thought. The disadvantage of the castle. The enemy. Flay thought quickly and kicked the Fangs guy to the ground. After that, she dragged this assassin back to the city lord's mansion and reported the situation to Lu Feng. Seeing this, city lord Lu Feng caressed Flay's chin and thought to himself. This guy is really unlucky. He met Flay instead of someone else. He was lucky enough not to lose his life. Lu Feng then praised Flay. Flay, you are really amazing. You were smart enough to protect the castle. As he spoke, he patted Flay's head, making her happy. Lu Feng then said to the guard Sink. Sink, I am very interested in this assassin's non-lethal neurotoxic poison. Quickly bring that Fangs over here. I want to meet him. Sink obeyed. Understood. Sink then quickly left the room and prepared to escort Fangs. Lu Feng suddenly remembered something and turned to ask Mina. Oh right. The guy who followed us last time, he was captured from Tenzing City. What did you find out after interrogation? Mina replied in disappointment. Young master, that person is dead. He committed suicide, leaving behind only a line of words in blood. What did he write? Lu Feng asked urgently. Mina answered clearly. Yes, he wrote. The radiance of the gods. Someone will be chosen by the gods to punish. You are the sinner. Lu Feng listened to Mina's words. He pondered and said to Mina. The glare of a god. The person chosen by a god? It seems that this is an extremist from that brainwashing organization. Speaking of this, Lu Feng thought to himself. It seems that the era of science and technology is backward. The people's thinking has also become superstitious. Gods are involved in everything. Then he turned to Mina and said, please have someone pay attention to matters related to the divine kingdom. Don't let them spread this to the people of our western city. Mina nodded in agreement. Yes, sir. The conversation just ended when the guard Sink escorted the assassin Fangs. Fangs just entered the room and saw little Flay reading a book on the sofa. He felt embarrassed and ashamed and thought to himself. I am an assassin, but I was defeated by a little girl. How humiliating. Lu Feng saw him. Knocking on the table, he said to him. Assassinating a noble, you really have a lot of guts. Now, is there anything else you want to say? The assassin replied casually. Blame it on my bad luck. I only hope that the city lord can let me redeem myself. Hearing this, Lu Feng was delighted and spoke freely. Hey, no rush. Tell me. You researched the poison that can make people lose consciousness but not kill them. Yes, my lord, it was my hard work to research it. The assassin Fangs answered Lu Feng while sweating. Lu Feng now asked doubtfully. You are a doctor, why did you become an assassin? The assassin sighed and replied to Lu Feng. When I was treating a patient, I accidentally killed a noble. If I wasn't being hunted down, I wouldn't have taken up this dangerous job of assassin. Lu Feng interrupted. He assassinated a noble, logically speaking, he should be hanged in front of the entire population until he died. However, Lu Feng calmly continued. Fang's face lit up at this moment. Lu Feng said, I will give you another chance to atone for your sins. Your sins are very great. Fangs was delighted. Really, you're not going to kill me anymore? Lu Feng replied happily. You were not born to be an assassin, you were born to be a good doctor. With your talent, I need you to continue researching this medicine. I wanted to turn it into a medicine that could help patients ease their pain during treatment, while not having any toxic effects on humans. Mr. Fangs was stunned. Here it is. Before the assassin Fangs could regain his composure, Lu Feng ordered his guard Sink. Take him to the Research Institute of the Ministry of Medicine and Science and Technology. Arrange a room for him. He is not allowed to be released until the research is completed. Yes, understood, Sink replied in obedience. Sink led Mr. Fangs to the Research Institute. As he walked, he turned back to look at Lu Feng with gratitude. Lord, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I hope you can rest assured. I failed this time, and there will still be other assassins coming to assassinate you in the future. Please be careful. Lu Feng calmly replied. You don't need to worry about that. The guards beside me are much more formidable than those assassins. Hearing this, Mina and Flay both showed the same expression of pride and arrogance. Scene change, to the capital of the Yinglu Kingdom. The magnificent Yinglu royal city with white castles and gorgeous ocean blue roofs. At this moment, in Princess Lucy's room, someone pushed the door open and entered the room. He said, Lucy, I heard you're not feeling well. Big brother came to visit you. Lucy was sitting on the chair reading a book. Hearing someone coming, she just replied. Whom? She was the little princess of the Yinglu Kingdom. She looked extremely gentle and lovely with her golden hair and big, sparkling eyes. She knew it was her big brother coming. She put the book down on the table and bowed. Hello, my lord. So, the eldest prince who just visited Princess Lucy is the eldest prince of the Yinglu Kingdom named Lucia. The eldest prince returned the greeting. Please sit down. Then, he sat down on the sofa opposite and said to Lucy. What I told you last time was about writing the main character of the novel. What do you think, little sister? Lucy replied. I haven't been feeling well lately. Let's talk about this. The crown prince sitting opposite heard these words and felt uncomfortable. He thought to himself. She pushed him away again. But a bastard child born from a concubine, if he didn't have some literary talent, who would even care about him? After thinking about it, he still had to put on a fake face and say it to Lucy. That's right, I'll wait until Lucy's health improves before continuing to write. Lucy quickly waved her hand, indicating that it was not. That's not what I meant. Then what do you mean, Lucy? Thought the crown prince Lucia. This girl, rejecting me over and over again, really doesn't know what's good for her. She wouldn't be in the same group as that Green. Lucia had just finished thinking when a man burst into Lucy's room. He rushed in and shouted, My little sister Lucy, I have come to visit you. This was none other than the second prince of the Yinglu Kingdom. His name was Green. The appearance of the second prince surprised both Lucy and Lucia's eldest prince, especially Lucy. The princess felt stunned and began to feel a little worried. The second prince saw the first prince sitting on the chair. He asked in surprise. Why are you here? The crown prince slowly stood up and sternly lectured Green. Where had all the etiquette his teachers taught him gone? Green, why don't you say hello when you see me? Green gritted his teeth in anger. It took him a long time to say hello. Then, the arrogant prince continued speaking. He came here to visit little sister Lucy, of course. It seems you are not only polite but also unintelligent here. But Lucy has a visitor, so I'll go first. Don't forget our agreement. I believe in you. The second prince was so angry when he heard this that blood rushed to his head. He snapped, losing his temper, and turned to Princess Lucy. He shouted. Very good, Lucy, so you're not going to agree with me because of that Lucia guy. Lucy was scared and quickly denied. I didn't do anything, please calm down. Green could no longer contain himself. He stepped forward, placed his hand on Lucy's shoulder, and squeezed hard. He growled. No problem. If not, why don't you write a novel for me? I've already thought of a name for you, it's called The Autobiography of King Green. Isn't writing novels your forte? Go ahead and write it. What are you waiting for? Lucy said fearfully, Second Prince brother, please calm down. You still tell me to calm down? I can lead troops to battle and protect the country. You just need to write a novel and the people of the whole country will know my power. The throne is mine. Green said as he tightened his grip on Lucy. Suddenly, pop pop, the second prince cried out in pain because a beast race person had just used her sharp claws to attack the second prince. Lucy saw that and shouted in a hurry. Jones, don't, stop. Jones still didn't want to stop. She leaned closer to the second prince. With a long swish, the second Prince Green's neck was already bleeding. He was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. He screamed, blood. I'm dying. Where is the doctor? Where is the doctor? He said in panic as he ran out of Lucy's room. Lucy stopped being afraid and said. Luckily she came just in time. Jones said with a tense face. That kind of person would not die in vain. It turned out that Jones was a leopard beast, Princess Lucy's bodyguard. After a while, both of them calmed down. Princess Lucy calmly said to Jones, "No matter what, he is my brother. If anything happens to him, father will be sad. Besides, if you take action, you will fall into the trap of the eldest prince." Jones panicked. "Huh? The eldest prince wants to use my hand to kill the second prince?" Princess Lucy lowered her head to the table and said thoughtfully, "That's right. Big brother had already calculated the time. He sent someone to tell second brother that he was here, and after meeting second brother, he deliberately provoked second brother. Second brother has a very hot temper, and easily gets angry at me. If I'm in any danger, she will definitely come to my rescue. But you know that. Second brother can't beat you. If you hadn't stopped in time, he would have died for sure." The battle for the throne between the two brothers has reached its climax. The eldest brother has the support of a great minister of internal affairs, and the second brother has the support of a great knight. Their power is equal. In addition, the fourth prince has recently made a move. But up to now, the emperor has not made any move. The struggle between these three brothers is about to come to light. With that, Jonas said worriedly, "Then you'll be in danger." Lucy just smiled slightly. She said, "Don't be afraid. Don't I still have you?" Lucy grabbed Jonas's leopard tail. Jonas huffed. "Come on, this is the 74th time this month." At this moment, Lucy suddenly spoke softly and worriedly. I don't know, father. Let's go visit father for a while. He's been sick for several days. He must be very bored. I'll go tell him a story. To cheer him up." Scene change, at King Inglow's sickbed. Princess Lucy gently approaches. Asks about her father. "Father, are you feeling better today?" The king sat on the bed and tiredly replied to the princess. "Much better. I see you are doing well." "Me too, father." Princess Lucy cares a lot about her father, the king continued. "I heard that Lucia and Green both came to see you." "Yes, that's right." Lucy replied optimistically. "These two brothers are very concerned about her." The king sighed. "I know. You are so kind." The king said. He took Lucy's little hands in his. He continued. "Lucy, my child, go out and walk. This world is so big, don't stay in the royal capital forever and be bored." Listening to the king, Princess Lucy also happily wished to go outside the kingdom. She said to Jones, "Go out and walk around." Jones, do you have anywhere you want to go?" Jones replied. "Wherever the princess goes, I go." Princess Lucy was very excited when she heard Jones' words. She said, "Jones, you are so good to me. Let's go out." Jones nodded in response. After a while, a servant ran to report to Princess Lucy. "Princess Lucy, Miss Darlene and Catherine are back?" Princess Lucy replied. "Is that so? Just in time, I also have to say goodbye to them. What would happen if Catherine found out? We must go, Jones." One morning at Darlene's shop in the entire capital. Crowds of people were rushing to the door. Pushing each other, noisily discussing. Asking each other. "What's wrong? What's wrong?" It was said that Miss Darlene went to the far gate to buy goods and brought back many strange items. Someone asked in surprise. "Strange? How strange could it be? What have the nobles of the capital not seen before?" The crowd continued to discuss and enter the shop. Inside the shop the fireplace was blazing. On the table were several rolls of cloth. Several clerks were spreading out the finest fabrics for customers to see. Catherine sat proudly on a chair, looking at Darlene who was confidently making her sales pitch. "Hello customers. Today our store has new items. There are many special products. I'm sure everyone will like them." The noble guests paid no attention. The arrogant reply. "Stop talking. Bring out all the good stuff." The rest of the crowd chimed in. That's right, that's right." Ignoring the somewhat impolite words, Darlene began to introduce. The first product was canvas. Everyone knew about canvas. Everyone was using it. But my canvas was soft and shiny. It was not like normal canvas. Everyone could touch it and see. As she spoke, Darlene pointed to the soft and shiny yellow fabric on the table. The noble guests below heard the introduction and said in disbelief, "Isn't it just canvas? It's just woven fabric, how smooth and shiny can it be?" A few people chimed in. That's right, that's right. Some people were skeptical and went forward to touch it. Then they exclaimed, "Wow! This feels really good." One guy's eyes lit up. "That's right. I've never touched such soft fabric." All the customers heard this and immediately stepped forward to touch it. Everyone was filled with doubt and admiration. Is this really canvas? The two people who were just arrogant and suspicious now changed. The girl held the soft cloth in her hand. She spoke loudly. "I will take all of this fabric." The guy next to her frowned and said, "No, I want it too." Several customers also spoke up. "That's right. That's right, how can you buy it alone?" Darlene saw that things were getting bad and immediately spoke up to reassure the customers. "Don't worry. I have enough stock for everyone. Besides, I have a lot of other good stuff besides canvas." The crowd of people standing around now opened their eyes wide in surprise. "What else?" Darlene smiled mysteriously. The sound of a cork being uncorked. The clinking of glasses. Darlene poured wine into the glass skillfully and said excitedly, "Why how wine?" The others each received a glass to try. Immediately praised. "Oh, good wine. Brown-haired girl. Admiring. Even better than Gunwon." Darlene was pleased. Her eyes lit up. She continued to introduce more. There were drinks and then there was food. Here was marinated fish and pickles. In Darlene's hands were two shiny, enticing plates of food. The aroma spread, making the guests salivate. They rushed to try it. As soon as they put it in their mouths, they exclaimed, "It's delicious." A few people heard the name of the dish and asked while observing. "What is a cucumber?" The brown-haired customer interrupted. "Why bother? It's delicious." While the others were still busy eating, Darlene brought out a unique product. She introduced it with great enthusiasm. Next was a timeless product. Paper. On the table were 2 stacks of pure white paper. Darlene continued. Paper was divided into 2 types. Thick paper is a substitute for parchment. You can also write directly on it. Tissue paper is thin. Used to clean. For example, to wipe hands, mouth. Can also be used to go to the toilet. The guests were picking up the paper to try it. One of them, somewhat unconsciously, was putting the paper in his mouth to taste it. The guests looked at the paper on the table and commented, "So that's it. This paper is really light. It will be much more convenient to write letters in the future. Napkins are also very convenient. I just got my hands dirty from eating. Now is the right time to wipe them off." Catherine has been sitting on the chair watching Darlene pitch her wares. "I'm so pleased that I gave her a like." Darlene's face was beaming with joy. The crowd of customers suddenly parted to the sides, making way for an elderly merchant to enter. He spoke as he walked. "Miss Darlene, these new items are really interesting." He continued to ask doubtfully. "But it's time to stop for a moment. I heard that this time there's even perfume. Is that true?" Darlene replied to the old merchant in front of her with a straight face. "That's right. The perfume is my last item." Darlene brought out a small light pink bottle, uncorking it as she said, "This is my perfume." All the guests were captivated by the captivating scent emanating from the small bottle. Because the old merchant was angry. What was there to admire? Perfume should be fragrant. It seemed that Miss Darlene's products were nothing special. Darlene calmly explained, "Of course my perfume is special. It's the normal perfume that everyone uses. The shelf life is only 10 days. Once it expires, the perfume will give off a foul smell." The people below started whispering again. So it was the expiration date. "I thought I didn't preserve it well." The others agreed. "Me too." Darlene continued. "The expiration date of this perfume is 180 days. The other guests exclaimed in surprise. 180 days. Then there's no need to change perfume so often. Darlene pointed to the long row of perfumes in colorful bottles on the table. She said confidently. "Besides, my perfumes are very reasonably priced. My perfumes are divided into 5 levels based on the scent strength. And the bottle in my hand is level 5 and costs only 88 silver coins." Hearing this, all the customers below started to make noise. So perfume is divided into levels. So cheap, why is it so fragrant? Only 88 silver coins. Give me a bottle. How about level 1? I want level 1. I want it too. Among the crowd of people who were rushing to get their hands on these intoxicating perfumes, a subordinate of the prince appeared, frowning with doubt in his mind. I must report to the fourth prince, this girl is not normal. Any product that appears today is enough to make her rich. But she insisted on making perfume, and wanted to expose the fourth prince's perfume problem in front of everyone. She clearly knew that selling perfume was the fourth prince's business, and by doing this she clearly wanted to cut off the fourth prince's fortune. In the crowd of people coming to buy, Darlene saw the fourth prince's subordinate quickly leaving the store. Catherine saw Darlene's sad and worried eyes and put her hand on her shoulder to reassure her, "Don't worry, with me here, the fourth prince won't dare to do anything to you." Darlene's face relaxed, looking at Catherine with grateful eyes, thanking her. A small handful of paper flew to the ground. Darlene slid down on the chair, tiredly saying, "It's finally over." Catherine smiled, patted Darlene's shoulder and said, "You've worked hard." Taking a sip of tea, Catherine said, "This time she can finally have the money to pay me for the loot." Darlene glanced at her friend who was calmly drinking tea in surprise and exclaimed, "Huh?" Before Catherine could reply, a man's voice interrupted the conversation. It seemed that Darlene was doing well in business. A well-dressed nobleman appeared outside the door, with what seemed to be his bodyguard beside him. Catherine and Darlene said in unison, "Fourth prince." "That's right, this fat man is the fourth prince of the Yinglu kingdom, Ding Keita." The two girls hurriedly saluted. Darlene hurriedly replied, "It's just a small business, why is your highness here?" The fourth prince coldly swept his hand over her and said, "I heard you sell perfume here, so I was curious and came to check it out. But it seems like they're all sold out." Catherine looked at his unfriendly attitude and replied, "Yes, it's all sold out." The fourth prince smiled and said, "It's okay, Catherine, I'm not here to buy perfume. Miss Darlene, please hand over the perfumer to me." Seeing the puzzled looks on the two girls' faces, the fourth prince continued, "I've been researching a new perfume recently. I didn't expect that someone would steal my perfume formulation method. I guess the perfume Miss Darlene is selling is probably my new formulation method." Hearing the fourth prince's shameless words, Catherine angrily shouted, "You really are." The fourth prince glared coldly and turned back, saying, "Everyone knows that all the perfumes are my property, perhaps Miss Darlene wouldn't hide a criminal." Catherine and Darlene were stunned when they heard what the fourth prince said. The fourth prince still asked in a harsh voice, "How is it, Miss Darlene?" He did not let the fourth prince finish his sentence. Two figures appeared at the door. A soft and gentle female voice said, "Darlene, Catherine, I came to find you to play." It turned out to be Princess Lucy and the leopard beastman guarding her, Jones. Seeing that the fourth prince was also here, the atmosphere seemed a bit tense and stuffy. Lucy asked, "Oh my god, why is the fourth prince here too? What's wrong with everyone?" The fourth prince saw that his little sister Lucy had come at an untimely time, so he indifferently replied, "It's fine, I just have a small matter that I want to find Miss Darlene to handle." Lucy looked worried and said, "Could it be that Darlene had a conflict with the prince? Darlene is straightforward. Don't argue with her, prince. I'll apologize to you on Darlene's behalf." The fourth prince still replied with a cold face, "There are things it's better to not get involved in." Lucy still smiled foolishly, replied, "Huh, I don't quite understand." Looking at his sister's silly expression, the fourth prince just remained silent and did not respond. Seeing Princess Lucy appear, Darlene felt less worried, her facial muscles relaxed and she smiled. Beside her, Catherine still had a very unpleasant expression, watching the back of the prince and his servant angrily leaving. Before leaving, the fourth prince said to Lucy, "If you've gone to play with Miss Darlene, then I won't bother you anymore." Darlene invited Lucy and Catherine to her private room for tea. In Darlene's room, the three of them sat on the sofa. Darlene was pouring water to serve the guests. Catherine turned to thank Lucy. Luckily, Miss Lucy came at the right time, otherwise that fat guy Ding Keita would have definitely made a big mess. Lucy humbly replied, "If I hadn't come, Darlene would have definitely been able to handle this small matter, but I guess the fourth prince won't let it go easily." Darlene brought the cup of tea she had just poured in front of Lucy and offered it. "This is milk tea, Princess Lucy, please try it." Princess Lucy tasted it and felt like flowers were blooming around her because of the sweetness. She excitedly said to the leopard beast woman behind her, "Jones, this sweet thing is so delicious, you should try it quickly." Jones's face did not change as he replied, "No," but then his face suddenly became sparkling with enjoyment after taking a sip of the milk tea the princess gave him. Princess Lucy smiled happily and said to Darlene, "This milk tea is really delicious, it smells good, how much is it?" Darlene replied gently, "This milk tea is not for sale right now, it was given to us by the Lord of Taeduong City." Lucy heard about the Western City and said, "I remember you brought back a lot of wonderful goods from the Western City this time. What the fourth prince wants is from the Western City, right? This Western City must be kept secret. With the fourth prince's unscrupulous nature, I'm afraid the Western City will be in trouble." Darlene replied gently, "Princess, there's no need to hide it. Nowadays, the Western City is very developed. There are also many merchants doing business there. Just ask around and you'll know." Lucy heard Darlene say that, and was happy. So that was it, but on the contrary, it was also a good thing. At least the fourth prince didn't make things difficult for her. Catherine had been sitting on the side, watching Lucy's attitude and words. She turned to ask, Lucy, what's wrong with you? Why are you suddenly so concerned about Darlene? I think you're hiding something from us, Lucy replied, I'm about to leave the kingdom. Catherine was surprised when she heard that and asked, where do you want to go in this winter? Darlene seemed to understand what was going on, looked at Lucy and asked, has it come to this? Hearing Darlene's question, Lucy replied, Darlene, you are so smart. Catherine's head was filled with questions, her eyes wide open. What are you two talking about? I don't understand anything. Darlene spoke up to explain. Before we arrived at Xi'an City, I had heard that the king was sick. These past 2 days, after the sun had set, I felt that the atmosphere in the capital was extremely stifling. The rivalry between the first prince and the second prince was known to everyone. Those with some power were forming cliques. Princess Lucy is favored by the king, neutral attitude. Two princes who cannot win over the princess will definitely harm her. Moreover, in order to prevent the princess from becoming an opportunity to help the other party, it is feared that the two princes will soon attack the princess. After hearing this, Catherine understood the problem and spoke loudly, so Lucy had to leave the royal capital to protect her life. Lucy lowered her head and continued sadly, I usually pretend to be confused in front of my elder brother, but with Jones here, they wouldn't dare to do anything to me directly. But a few days ago, the eldest brother plotted to have Jones injure the second brother. I'm afraid this kind of thing will only happen more and more in the future. Lucy looked a little scared at the thought of what happened next, taking Catherine's hand for comfort. Catherine stood up and scolded after hearing that, her elder brother was too much. Lucy still replied gently, the emperor has agreed to let me leave. Lucy turned to look at Catherine with her blue eyes and said seriously. But Catherine, I'm afraid. I heard that your father, Duke Kailak, wants to help the eldest prince. I'm afraid that he will marry you to the eldest prince soon. Hearing these words, Catherine was stunned, astonished, then fell back, her face pale as she said, this matter, no wonder I went to my father to ask me what I thought of the prince. I don't want to marry that hypocritical prince. Then Catherine threw herself into Lucy's arms and cried like a child. Hoo. Lucy sighed sympathetically and comforted Catherine. Darlene heard the news, looking at the two girls who were caught up in the unpleasant situation before her eyes, her heart also worried as she said, Princess Lucy, your life is in danger right now, your two elder brothers are also immoral and incompetent. Why don't you take that position yourself? Sit in that position yourself? Darlene's words startled the other two, they turned to look at the person who called out, Darlene. Catherine sat back in her chair, looking at Darlene nervously. These words cannot be said again. 100 years ago, the Yinglu kingdom had an extremely talented queen. In order to raise the status of women, she had greatly damaged the interests of the nobles. The nobles were afraid of such a thing happening again. They were on guard against women in power. If the news of Princess Lucy's desire to ascend the throne were to spread, the people who wanted to harm Lucy would not only be the two princes. Princess Lucy smiled gently and said, I am just a little princess who likes to write stories. Even if I think so, I have no money or connections. Catherine heard that and sighed softly. She stood up and turned around to say, so where does Princess Lucy want to go? It's not easy to move around in this cold weather. Lucy replied, I haven't thought about where to go yet. Maybe we'll move to nearby places first. Darlene suggested, if there's no destination, let's take a boat to the west, it's a wonder city, she'll love it. Lucy heard that and asked again. The Castle of Miracles. Hearing about the western city and its handsome young lord, Catherine excitedly said, yes, she would definitely like the western city. It was very special there were many beastmen. Moreover, beastmen and humans lived together equally. Furthermore, Lelisa also lived there, the food there was delicious. There were even pizza, dumplings, and noodles, Lucy would definitely have to try them. Hearing so many strange and surprising things, Lucy asked curiously. Beastmen and humans lived together peacefully. Is that true? Catherine and Darlene looked at the little princess and replied. Lucy felt very interested. She happily turned around and said to the leopard guard beside her. Jones. Let's go to Xi'an City. The guard immediately obeyed. The towering snow-capped mountains shimmered under the sunlight. At the gorge in the Yukam mountain range. The military training area on the snowy trail. A group of horsemen was advancing. Black-clothed guards were riding around, protecting the carriage pulled by two horses in the middle. This group belonged to City Lord Lu Feng. In contrast to the cold snow outside, the air inside the car was filled with an ambiguous scent, gradually heated up by Lu Feng's passionate kiss to Mina. Lu Feng gently took Mina's chin in his hand, pulling her closer to him. Mina leaned forward, receiving this sweet kiss. The air was filled with pink. The two of them immediately separated. Lu Feng looked at Mina, who was still a little shy, and said, "It's been a while since we've been alone together." Mina's cheeks were still red as she replied, "Yes." Lu Feng rolled down the carriage curtain and looked outside. He said, "I've been busy with spring planting lately. Today I finally had time to go out of the city to see how the elves are doing. I wonder how their training is going." Mina continued. "Young master, I've been doing intelligence gathering for the security bureau lately, so I haven't paid much attention to the situation here." The handsome black-clothed guard saw the city lord Lu Feng looking outside. He immediately reported, "City lord, ahead is the mountain pass where the goblin assault squad is stationed." Lu Feng heard that and gave the order. "Go inside and see." All the guards obeyed and shouted, "Understood." It was still winter, the weather was extremely harsh, the cold wind blew strongly on the mountain, in the goblin training area. A woman in a green cloak was giving a stern order to the soldiers practicing below. "Shoot a little faster. The speed is too slow. At least one breath must shoot an arrow, remember?" Immediately, everyone below shouted in unison, "Understood." It was Lelisa who was directing the training. As soon as she finished speaking, the sound of a carriage caught her attention. She recognized the city lord's carriage coming. The female leader said in surprise, "Huh, the city lord is here to supervise. Everyone line up and don't be quiet." The group of elves who were training immediately lined up in two neat rows. Lu Feng got out of the carriage and walked towards the female leader. Lelisa greeted Lu Feng after seeing him. City Lord Lu Feng looked at everyone and asked, "Lelisa, do you usually train elves like this?" Lelisa replied immediately, "That's right, the elves' ability to shoot arrows accurately is very high. Next, just need to increase the shooting speed, the attack power will be greatly increased." Lu Feng saw this and asked again, "Have you ever participated in mobile target attack and mobile arrow shooting training, and also the longest distance arrow shooting training?" Hearing the strange things Lu Feng just said, Lelisa asked in confusion, "City Lord, what is that?" Lu Feng saw that Lelisa didn't know. He frowned slightly and sighed. "Forget it. I'll tell you later. How's the camouflage training going?" Lelisa happily replied. "As requested by the city lord. It's all done. The elves are all hiding very well. Even if they're standing next to each other, it's hard to detect them." Seeing Lelisa's confidence, Lu Feng wanted to test it out. "Command." "Oh, so confident? I want to test it out, is that okay? The location is the dry forest outside the canyon. I'll give you 20 minutes. Lelisa replied confidently. "No problem. Lord City Lord. I'll tell them to prepare." Lu Feng held out his hand and said, "Go." Mina had been observing the arrows hitting the bullseye on the target. She said to Lu Feng, "Young master. The arrow hit the bullseye." They were indeed the best elves in archery. Lu Feng just shook his head and said, "They were just shooting dead things." They were far from it. He thought to himself, hopefully the disguised district will give him a surprise. At this time, in the dry woods outside the canyon, the footsteps of Lu Feng's group had already come to check. Lu Feng looked at the pile of snow and dry leaves in front of her and said, "Go away. You've been exposed. Such a thick pile of snow and dry leaves on the ground, wouldn't that tell others that there's something unusual here?" The snow pile moved. A goblin stood up and said, "City Lord." Lu Feng gave a stern instruction. "Hide in the snow with some dry branches. Breathe through the gaps in the snow pile. As long as the dry branches are a little bigger than the gaps, it will be fine." The goblin listened and obeyed. Lu Feng and his group soon found the goblin disguised in the dry woods. Looking at the lifeless pile of snow exposed in front of them, Lu Feng sighed sadly and said, "And her too." The layer of snow was too thin. One could see the outline of a person. Especially her, but was too big. At first glance it was obvious that something was wrong. Lu Feng shook his head in frustration. Such a disguise was too clumsy. Any hunter or knight with a little experience would see through it immediately. Mina looked at Lu Feng with admiration. As expected of a young master, Lu Feng walked around to find the group of goblins that were awkwardly disguised in the snow. Some people even had their hair sticking out. "That's a good thing to say." Lu Feng continued to say dejectedly, "Come out. Your hair is all exposed. If you're going to hide, you should wrap your hair in cloth. Especially in a place like this with all the snow." Lu Feng continued. The hiding place was as natural as this rock. She went and made a dry tree to cover it. Wasn't it to let others know that someone was hiding here? Look up at the tree. Lu Feng continued. You come down here too, hide in the tree and remember to clean the snow off the tree. Mina saw that the goblins had all been found and spoke. The young master now only had Lelisa left. Gather everyone. Lu Feng explained. As for other environments like mountains, forests, hills, cities and towns, it was almost the same. It was just a matter of making the place you were hiding look clever. Along with hiding yourself, you were also hiding these traces. Lelisa and the goblins listened to the useful information seriously. Lu Feng asked more, is there anything else he doesn't understand? He was secretly crying in his heart. Thank you for all the documentaries he has watched, otherwise he wouldn't have any capital to teach them now. The crowd that had been listening attentively all this time had their minds opened, and they shouted in unison, understood. Lelisa was happy and said, I understand now, camouflage training is not only to disguise oneself but also to disguise the traces of camouflage, so that it will naturally not be easily discovered by others. Lu Feng saw that everyone understood and grasped what he said, so he instructed everyone, if they understood, then continue training. Only when they could shoot and kill the enemy while in camouflage without letting the enemy find them would it be considered a success. Lelisa and the goblins confidently followed his orders. The goblins began to discuss tactics. They had to consider the wind direction in the environment, and their hair, they had to tie it up to avoid being exposed. I'll do it again, please help me see. The blackguard Sink said to Lu Feng, City Lord, it's getting late. Are you ready to return to the city? Lu Feng replied, there's no rush. It's been a while since I've been able to leave the city. That's right, I remember the military camp isn't too far from here, right? The guard immediately replied, yes, the city lord will be there soon. Resting his chin on his hand, Lu Feng thought, spring is almost here, the third conscription is almost over. We can start preparing, but before that, we still have to go to the military camp to check if the soldiers' qualities are okay? Thinking so, Lu Feng turned to the guard and said, Sink, pass down the order, in the evening, we will go to the military camp to observe. Sink immediately obeyed, understood. The sky has turned to evening. The weather was getting colder. At the military camp outside Xi'an City, the guards were raising their weapons at the crowd entering the military camp. Shouted, stop, don't move. Who are you? Where are you from? Lu Feng came forward to introduce himself, don't panic, I'm Lu Feng. The soldiers suddenly discovered that it was Lu Feng's group and stammered, you are, Lord City Lord. Everyone lined up neatly, bowed their heads respectfully, and greeted the city lord. Looking at the soldiers saluting before him, Lu Feng said, 5 people in a squad, working closely together. Even if something happens, the others can have a chance to report back. Very good, it is very reasonable to arrange soldiers to stand guard in a hidden position. You guys do your job, no need to notify me, I'm just going to check. The guard received the order and shouted, understood. In the quiet barracks, Lu Feng looked and said, let's go. Mina remembers to time it. Mina picked up the stopwatch and replied, yes, young master. The man in black received the order, holding the gong in his hand, and started to beat the alarm loudly. The loud and piercing sound of the gong tore through the quiet night. The commander of the military camp who was sleeping in the room woke up in shock and said loudly, what happened? The gong kept ringing, he ran out of the room, wearing his armor ready for battle. Out in the yard, seeing the crowd beating the gong, he suddenly came out and shouted, Lord City Lord. Mina pressed the stopwatch on her hand and told Lu Feng, young master, 2 minutes. Lu Feng looked at the commander with satisfaction and said, okay, stand aside and wait first. The commander obeyed the last command and shouted, clearly, behind, from the rooms, soldiers began to rush out to gather in the yard. Under the bright moonlight and gentle wind, the soldiers were all assembled, but their uniforms were not neat. Among the soldiers, some were wearing shoes and sandals, and some were even wearing feminine bows. There was also a soldier who was shirtless, with only a tight bra on his upper body, pink hair, pierced ears, and full, seductive lips, making many of the men around him look shyly. As soon as the gong ended, Lu Feng looked at the soldiers gathered in front of him and said, today, I have come to cause trouble for everyone. The soldiers of my western city, no matter what time it is, must be on guard and not let down their guard for even half a minute. Lu Feng walked around and observed, stopping at the blonde soldier who was fearfully lowering his head and asked, where is your weapon? Do you want to be killed instantly on the battlefield? Then he looked at the soldier without any armor and scolded him, but where is his shoulder armor? Going to battle without armor, are you tired of living? Then Lu Feng angrily shouted to the entire legion. Those who were not wearing their full armor, step out of line. I hope this is the last time, now listen to my command, carry heavy loads, and start running. The whole army obeyed, all carrying heavy logs on their shoulders in pairs, running around the camp to the count of 121. Lu Feng stood in the room with the commander, looking at the soldiers running in the yard, thinking, their discipline is too poor. Even if the army was 10 times larger, it would still be a weak army, without fighting power. Lu Feng continued to tell the commander, I know that among them, there are many people who join the army for food. But if they don't have faith in their hearts, once they encounter a powerful enemy, they will most likely surrender immediately. Lu Feng said seriously, having such soldiers is like not having them, what's the difference? The Legion commander immediately bowed his head and admitted his mistake, City Lord, it's my fault. Lu Feng rested his chin on his hand and said thoughtfully, it's not entirely your fault, it's also because I didn't think about this problem before. Their physical quality is up to standard, what they lack now is the strong belief in willingly sacrificing themselves to protect Xi'an City. Lu Feng closed his eyes and thought in his mind 2 words, faith, faith, there it was. In the barracks office, Lu Feng said to Mina, Mina, help me do this. Mina replied, what are you doing, young master? It was already dawn. Lu Feng, Mina and the guards stood on the high floor looking down at the soldiers who had gathered neatly. Lu Feng solemnly looked at all the soldiers who were timidly bowing their heads and said, yesterday's assembly disappointed me, and now it disappoints me even more. My soldiers don't even have the courage to look straight at me, everyone is so cowardly that they're not even as brave as elementary school students. Looking at the soldiers who were still silently lowering their heads, Lu Feng said loudly. Are you all angry? Do you feel humiliated? Every day I feed you all, delicious food, full meals. No one in this entire Western city has food as delicious as you all, is this how you repay the Western city? Is the rate at which people put on armor faster than the rate at which people fight over food? If you don't even wear your armor properly, you'll only lose face on the battlefield and seek death. Looking at the soldiers clenching their fists, Lu Feng continued to speak even more aggressively. Forget about losing face, you won't know how to lose face. Because at that time, there will be no more lives, and the ones who will lose face will be your loved ones, your parents, your children. Others will say that everyone is a bunch of motley soldiers going to the battlefield to rush to their deaths, after all, they are soldiers who can't even wear proper armor, so what else is they if they aren't motley? Tell me, are you all motley crew? Lu Feng continued to speak loudly, whether they were rabble or not, it was not something that could be determined by shouting, just by everyone's performance yesterday. Anyone who saw them would think that they were all rabble soldiers, not strong soldiers who could protect Xi'an City, protect their loved ones, protect their children. Now everyone tell me, do you want to be a strong soldier who protects your family and protects the Western city, or a motley soldier who waits to die? All the soldiers below shouted in unison, strong soldiers. Lu Feng said with satisfaction, the strong soldiers in my heart have strict discipline, are brave and courageous, and fight without fear of death. If the enemy can hold out for a long time, our strong soldiers must hold out for an hour or 2 longer than them. Even though all his teammates had fallen and he was the only one left, he still dared to carry his spear and sword and charge forward. Death is not scary, if a hero dies in battle I will take responsibility for that person. Seeing the soldiers' spirits rise, Lu Feng continued to inspire them. Starting from today, as long as they are soldiers who died fighting for Xi'an City, I will take care of their parents and raise their children to become talented people. I will erect a tombstone for them and bring their loved ones to witness their glory. The entire army heard the city lord say that and opened their mouths wide, saying strongly, swearing to die for the city lord, swearing to die for Taeduong City. All the soldiers raised their hands to show their determination and shouted in unison. We swear to die for the Lord, we swear to die for the Taeduong Citadel. We swear to die for the Lord, we swear to die for the Taeduong Citadel. The flag that represents me also represents everyone, and moreover, it represents the Western City. It is a flag with the image of a majestic and powerful dragon, fluttering in the wind, under the sunlight it looks even more majestic. Lu Feng forcefully used his sword to cut his palm, fresh blood immediately dripped down before everyone's astonished eyes, he used the fresh blood to drip onto the battle flag and said, as the city lord, he was also willing to bleed to protect Xi'an City, to protect the people of Xi'an City. While all the soldiers were still surprised, the commander of the Neo Dai army also used a knife to cut his hand and swear in blood, I will risk my life to protect Taeduong City with the city lord. All the soldiers below also bravely used knives to cut their hands, shouting loudly, we also swore to risk our lives to protect Taeduong Citadel with the city lord. All of them dripped blood on the red cloth to show their determination to the end. Lu Feng looked at everyone below with satisfaction and said, the soldiers have already planted the faith to protect their families and the Western City. All that is left is to use their strong will and willingness to sacrifice to carry it out. Nyo Dai is ready for the next parade. Commander Nyo Dai immediately raised his hand to receive the order. On the streets of Xi'an City, in a large open space, many curious citizens were gathered together, looking at the group of people who had just been arrested by the police. 2 of the people who were being escorted were kneeling on the ground, while the other one was running away. The beast girl immediately ran over, shouting loudly, don't move. I'm arresting you now for disturbing the peace in the city. Dees ran after the criminal who was trying to escape. He turned back to look at her and said, I am not causing trouble. Dees reached out to grab him and continued, if you have anything to say, say it at the police station. The criminal glared angrily, pulled out a knife from his pocket, and said loudly, "I'm not disturbing the peace." He swung the knife at Deese's hand. She couldn't dodge in time and was cut by the knife. The sharp knife tore his shirt, cut his arm, and revealed the triangular symbol on Deese's arm. At this time, the police also rushed over to restrain him. The criminal saw the triangle on her arm and shouted, "She is a slave, look at the slave symbol on her arm, a slave like her has no right to arrest me." Deese kept the wound from bleeding while scolding him, "I am the captain of the patrol police team appointed by the city lord, I am no longer a slave but a free man." People began to gossip, the criminal had just been escorted away, but still did not submit, his mouth still spoke harsh words. "A slave will always be a slave, a mark means a slave, I am a commoner, you have no right to arrest me." The people below were whispering, Miss Deese was a slave, so the armband was to cover the mark. The city lord once said that as long as a slave worked hard, he could become a free person. But unless the mark was cut off with a knife, it would stay there for life. Deese ignored those words and said forcefully, "The city lord told me to protect Taeduong City. If you do something bad, I have the right to arrest you." Below, a bad guy said, "You listen to the city lord so much, the city lord must be your master, right?" Deese was a bit surprised when she heard that, then angrily punched that guy and sent him flying, his face dark as he said, "I don't allow you to talk to the young master like that." Seeing her actions, the commoners below exclaimed, "Miss Deese is so cool. You don't even look at who she works for, even if Miss Deese is a slave, she is still stronger than us commoners." The policeman told her, "Deese, cover it up, if you don't see it, no one will tell." Deese looked a bit sad, covering the symbol on his hand with his hand, clenching it tightly. That night, the word slave kept ringing in Deese's head, the criminals' insults and the common people's gossip kept echoing. Slave, slave, she was a slave, as long as she had the mark she was still a slave should obediently accept slavery. Deese shouted, "No, I'm not a slave." The policeman's voice suddenly appeared beside her. Being a partner with a slave was really embarrassing. Deese was indignant, her eyes glistening with tears, she shook her head and said fearfully, "No, I am not a slave." Tears welled up in her eyes, she looked around for someone who could sympathize with her, then suddenly in front of her appeared the city lord Lu Feng with a cold voice and lifeless eyes, she was a slave. Deese screamed in fear, "I'm not." Deese woke up with a start from her nightmare, she was exhausted and gasping for breath on the bed, she hugged her knees, buried her face in her hands and sobbed, reassuring herself, no, the young master definitely wouldn't say that. The next morning, during breakfast, Ellie's angry voice rang out, putting down the devil in her hand. Nina also angrily shouted back, whoever took it would be theirs. Deese sat and thought, her bowl of rice full and she hadn't touched it yet. Normally, wasn't she the most gluttonous person? Seeing this, Lu Feng immediately asked, "Deese, what's wrong?" Lu Feng's question caught everyone's attention. Deese woke up with a start and replied, yeah, I'm fine." Seeing Deese's strange attitude, everyone worriedly asked, "Are you sick? Something's wrong with you, you don't even eat." Without waiting for Deese to reply, Lu Feng immediately stood up and said, "Let me check." Lu Feng walked up to Deese and touched her forehead to check her temperature. Deese was embarrassed by Lu Feng's sudden action, her head was fuming, her hands covered her stomach, her face was red and she was so embarrassed, I'm really fine." Lu Feng saw Deese's action and realized. Could it be? Then turned to Mina and said, "Mina, go ask Deese if she is having her period. If so, cook her some brown sugar water." Mina was also surprised to see the young master who was so sensitive about this also responded, "So that's what it was." Lu Feng reached out and pinched Mina's ear, saying shyly, "This is normal, there's no need to be shy." Mina shyly leaned her head against Lu Feng's chest and softly replied, "Yes." The two of them were affectionate for a while and then returned to the dining table. Lu Feng told Deese, "If you're not feeling well today, you don't need to go to the police station, go home and rest after breakfast." Nicole heard that and also added, "That's right, don't force yourself, rest and get well first." Deese heard that and also obeyed. After the meal, Deese returned to her room to rest. While lying on the bed, she thought, the young master cares about her so much, just now he even specially told Mina to take care of her. The master has always hoped that slaves can become free again through labor, but apart from patrolling the streets, I can't do anything. Have I implicated the master? I live in the city, maybe other people will say that the young master is a slave owner, I can't bring trouble to the young master. As Deese spoke, she silently shed tears, a silly thought appeared, without me, everyone would live better, right? It was raining, as the night was getting closer, outside of Xiang City, at the Yukam mountain range, there was the sound of a group of people. One of them spoke up, the leader, and performed the play in front of the beastman named Deese as planned. The captured person also tried his best not to leave any traces behind. So it was the group of people from the Black Iris organization. The leader sat on the cold snow and replied, according to the recent propaganda, the slaves and civilians of Xiang City are now at odds with each other. It is believed that Xiang City will soon fall into chaos. The white-haired girl wearing an orange cloak, sitting on a rotten log, spoke. Steward Chi, how long have you been in Shiyang City? Butler Chi replied, it's been a few days. The person who asked just now was the leader of the Black Iris. She asked again, what was his impression of this castle? The butler replied, the western castle was very interesting. Hearing that, she smiled coldly and said mysteriously and evilly, how interesting, you go home, just follow the plan. If Dees does not leave the western city, then 3 days later kill several people, pretending to be a conflict between slaves and civilians. Butler Zich immediately obeyed and left. The Black Iris leader peeked at the blue-haired female assistant beside him and asked, Little Gold, the mission in Feinas City failed because the city lord of 11 Yang City suddenly appeared. The blue-haired girl beside him quickly replied, that's right. The leader's face was sinister, he smiled and said, interesting. Then she stood up, looked towards the western city and said, it's a pity that such a nice place cannot last long. The crowd dispersed, the leader ordered her subordinates, Kimo, let's go, back to the base. Kimo obeyed and followed. The leader got on the palanquin carried by 4 people, with Kimo walking beside her, and set off back to the base. On both sides of the road, her subordinates stood in neat rows holding torches to light the way. Kimo thought confidently as he walked, the leader's plans had never been wrong. Lelisa, we will see each other again soon. Tante Duong, at the pizza shop, Dees looked tired and helpless, said, give me 30 pizzas, no, give me 50 pizzas, add meat, take away. The waiter was happy, holding a pen to write down the menu. Seeing Dees ordering so many pizzas, he asked curiously, Miss Dees was planning to have a summer party, 50 pizzas was a lot, she would have to wait a while to finish. Dees quickly waved his hand and said, it's okay, I'll go for a walk and come back later to get it. Dees turned around, her face sad, sighing. Maybe she wouldn't be able to eat it anymore, so buy as much as she can. If she can't finish it, she can dry it as a souvenir. No, how could she not finish it? Next thing to buy, Dees said as she walked. Suddenly Dees bumped into a blonde girl, making a popping sound, ah, ah. Dees instinctively pulled down his sleeve to cover the tattoo. Dees's whole body trembled, scared, her face darkened. The blonde girl who had just bumped into Dees saw this and immediately panicked and asked, sorry, I bumped into her, are you okay? Dees bowed his head, his voice cold, it's okay, it's because I wasn't looking at the road. Dees said and walked quickly, hurriedly going out of the restaurant. As soon as Dees went out, in the pizza restaurant, the man sitting in the corner witnessed the whole scene just now. He put his hands together, his mouth smiling meaningfully, the smile was full of evil intentions, as if he was preparing some dirty plan. At the rented house in Shiyang City, the security team knocked on the door of a room with a knocking sound. The security team from outside the door loudly announced, open the door, check as usual. A fat man pushed the door open and said in surprise, it's the captain on patrol again. You've worked hard. The guard replied, winter is cold and dry, we have to light a fire every day to keep warm. But firewood is dangerous, especially in places with many people like rental houses, accidents can easily happen. That's why the Lord asked us to patrol more often, to check fire safety, hope you understand. He still had a smile on his face, as if nothing had happened, saying, it's okay, everyone has worked hard. The guard remembered something and asked, I remember you, your last name is Sich, you are a fabric merchant. You have a good memory, he replied. The guard asked again, I remember you had several subordinates, none of whom are here. He was startled when he heard that, but he calmly replied on the outside. He had gone out to visit the western city. There was so much delicious food and fun here, how could he stay in his room? The guard heard that and immediately found fault. He had been here for many days, but he still hadn't visited. He justified that the western city had many new and exciting things to do. The check is done, the guard said, the room is very neat and tidy, there is no potential danger. I'm going to patrol another house, remember to be careful. He breathed a sigh of relief and thanked the young master for his compliment. As soon as the guards left, he broke out in a sweat as if a burden had been lifted. He lamented, the patrolling soldiers in this city are too diligent, I thought we were exposed, but it seems, Taeduong City doesn't know anything about our actions. Suddenly, a person appeared in the room. He said to him, what's wrong? The person who appeared was the one sitting in the pizza shop. He reported the process of tracking Dees, he said, Dees is going to buy a large amount of things, he should be leaving soon. The fat man nodded in agreement, the leader's plan was indeed very effective, let people prepare to go, tonight they will ambush and attack outside the city. The other person shouted, understood, then turned and left. After the patrol, the guards returned to report to the city lord about the results they had obtained today. City lord, it was indeed the fabric merchant surnamed Zich who had a problem. It's been 8 days since we arrived in Shiyang City. Except for the first trip to the market, the rest of the time we spent watching plays, eating, and walking around, it didn't seem like we were doing anything. Moreover, he wasn't the only one like that. There were a few others, and we've already investigated them all. Ellie said with certainty, it seems that it was them who did it, intentionally causing discord between the slaves and civilians in the city, spreading rumors that were not beneficial to everyone's relationship and harmony. Mina added, spreading rumors is Black Iris's forte, I think they are Black Iris people. But what is their purpose after all? Revenge for the goblin incident last time. Lu Feng said, their goal is to enslave the beastmen in Xi'an City. Currently, the human structure in Xi'an City is divided into nobles, merchants, commoners and freedmen converted into slaves. Among them, the number of civilians and slaves is the largest. If there is a conflict between the two sides, the order in the city will be disrupted. If Xi'an City is in chaos, He Dianwei can take the opportunity to capture the beast slaves in the city. But now in Xi'an City, whether it is free people or commoners, life is warm and happy. They will not let some conflicts and rumors come from nowhere to cause chaos. They have great trust in the city lord. He Dianwei's plan will not succeed. Lu Feng didn't think so, it seemed so on the surface, but those rumors would sow unease in their hearts. All it took was the right thing to happen, like finding a slave that everyone in Xi'an City knew about, to confirm those rumors. Hearing this, everyone was startled and shouted, Dees. Mina realized something was wrong, no wonder her mood had been like this for the past few days, maybe it was because of this. Lu Feng quickly told Mina, go see where Dees is, call her here. Mina replied, yes, then ran to Dees's room. The guard didn't understand what was going on, so he asked Lu Feng, what was wrong with Miss Dees? Lu Feng explained that Dees's mood had been down for the past few days, probably because she had been discriminated against for being a slave while patrolling the streets. Dees was the patrol captain, patrolling the streets every day, everyone knew her, and liked her too. If even a patrol captain like Dees was discriminated against, then surely the slaves would be uneasy. The guard heard the explanation, opened his eyes in surprise, and jumped up, understanding that the provocative words were the gunpowder, and Dees was the fuse. Mina ran in from outside with a panicked expression, shouting, young master, Dees has packed her things, it seems she doesn't want to say goodbye. Ellie was afraid, what, if Dees left then the slaves would definitely say that we don't tolerate slaves, chase Dees away. Dees leaving would make the slaves of Taeduong City more insecure, Black Iris's plot was about to succeed. Mina quickly said to Lu Feng, let me go after her. Lu Feng's face darkened, calmly calling Mina back, wait. Everyone in the room stood there, dumbfounded, looking at Lu Feng in confusion. Looking at everyone's bewildered faces and heads full of questions, Lu Feng said, don't chase after her, just let her go. Outside the western wall, Dees jumped down from the wall, stood up, shouldered his luggage, and sadly said goodbye to everyone. Master, goodbye everyone, thank you for your care and concern in the past time, from now on, I will remember you every day. Dees was still standing there, not knowing where to go, when two people appeared in front of her. The two people were wearing brown cloaks, their voices were hoarse, and they stopped. Dees was surprised by the appearance of the two people, curious, who are you? Dees was scared and stepped back, not knowing what was happening. One of the people in the crowd held a sword and stepped out, fiercely shouting, who I am is none of your business, you just need to die. Another person said from behind, charge forward, she is alone, fight fast and win fast. Dees was scared, his whole body stiffened, and he stepped back. Seeing them charging towards her, Dees cursed, damn it, she pulled out her sword from behind her back. There was a shout of, ah, from behind, Dees and the other group all turned their heads in surprise. On the ground, there were two men in cloaks lying unconscious. Standing over their bodies was a man in a red cloak holding a sword, blood still splattered on the blade. It was Avery, her face was cold, her demeanor was fierce as she shouted, following the orders of the city lord Lu Feng, no one here is to be spared. Dees saw Avery appear and suddenly asked, Avery, are you here? Avery explained to Dees that the young master already knew that she wanted to leave. Dees sweated, worried, the master knew, so he. Avery said, the young master told me to tell you, it's all Black Iris's plot. Black Iris wants to provoke the relationship between you and the young master to achieve the goal of making the western city chaotic. Dees stared, mouth agape in disbelief, defiant. Dees thought back to everything that happened these past few days and realized how stupid she was. She was sad, felt guilty, stammered, I didn't expect, I would hurt the young master, sorry. Before Dees could finish speaking, Avery coldly lifted Dees's spirits. She said, if you want to apologize, then keep it and go back and tell the young master. What she needed to do now was. Pausing for a moment, she and Dees charged forward with their swords, attacking the advancing enemy. The two sides fought intensely. Although there were only two people on Avery and Dees's side, their strength was not weaker. The two worked together to defeat each incoming enemy. In the night outside the western city, screams, ugh, ah, the enemy soldiers' blood splattered, lying on the ground before the two men's swords. Avery swung his sword, the sword placed on the leader's neck. The sword reflected his frightened face. He cried out, even if you kill me, it won't help. We still have people in the city, Xi'an City will be ours sooner or later. Avery said confidently, this matter, do you think our city lord doesn't know? Then the sword slashed down, blood spurted out, and the other guy fell down. Meanwhile, in the rental room in Taeduong, the fat guy was eagerly looking out the window. He was uneasy. It was still 2 hours until dawn, there was no news from outside the city, the person sent to investigate had not returned. Could it be that the plan had failed? His mind was full of doubts. To avoid a long night of dreams, Plan B had to be carried out quickly, the message had been sent and action had to be taken immediately. He walked over to the pigeon box and released them out the window. Pigeons with a piece of paper attached to their legs are the oldest method of communication. In another room, 2 of the fat man's accomplices took out a piece of paper. After reading it, he told the person next to him, read military advisor's orders, follow Plan B, act immediately. The rest of the people answered in unison, yes sir. From outside, a valve sound rose, the door of the room fell down. The people in the room were startled and panicked. At the door were guards, all fully armed. Fuzi shouted, the police station is carrying out its duties. Through investigation, it is suspected that you are involved in the recent fabricated incident, please cooperate with the work. The men inside saw that the matter was exposed and raised their swords, shouting, the matter is exposed, kill. Every single one of them rushed forward fiercely, not knowing what fear was. Suddenly, from somewhere, arrows flew in, shooting straight into their legs, making them unable to move. Fu Tu stood at the window, giving a thumbs up to the archers outside the window. They surrendered. The fat guy was still in the waiting room, when he heard the loud screams. He didn't understand what was happening, then from the roof, Mina jumped down and hit his fat face. Mina said, the security department is on duty, I suspect you are involved in human trafficking, please cooperate with the investigation. He heard the security bureau, immediately stepped back in fear, hurriedly defended. No, I'm a fabric merchant, I do honest business. Mina saw that he was still defending, so she coldly snorted, go tell that to the police station. Seeing that Mina didn't believe him, he rolled on the floor and crawled out to escape. In his mind, he thought, he cannot be caught, if he is caught, he will only die. As he ran, he shouted, help, there is robbery, murder. The guard gave him a blow on the back of the head. He passed out and lay flat on the ground. Mina said from behind, leading the way. When Mina returned to Lu Feng's place, she quickly reported the situation to him. Last night, more than 200 people from the police department, the security department, and a raid team were brought in to capture more than 92 members of the Black Iris. Manager Chi was interrogated at the police station. Lu Feng replied, all right, you've worked hard. Tell the staff to rest. The door opened, and Avery led Dees in from outside. Avery said, we're back. Lu Feng replied, it's good that we're back. Dees stood behind with her head down, extremely ashamed of her rash actions. She didn't dare look at the young master anymore. Suddenly, Lu Feng added, this time the action was still to thank Dees. Dees hid behind, hearing Lu Feng praise her. Tears welled up in her eyes, she raised her head, not believing it, Lu Feng saw Dees like that and had no choice but to explain. If Dees hadn't stopped the Black Iris Knights outside the city, helping us by time, how could we have completely eradicated the Black Iris? Dees knew that Lu Feng said that just to comfort her and save her face. She immediately said, no, that's not it, I didn't do anything. She burst into tears, apologizing miserably, I wanted to run away, apologize to young master, apologize to you, but I was really afraid that you would look down on my status as a servant, and even more afraid that people would gossip about you because of it. Dees felt something on her face, raised her head to look, it was Lu Feng helping her wipe away her tears. Lu Feng wiped and spoke, his voice warm, don't be afraid, no one will look down on you, and no one will gossip. She is the captain of the patrol team of Taeduong City, everyone likes her very much. Dees was also happy to hear that, but still said sadly, but I have the mark of a slave, I will be a servant for the rest of my life. Lu Feng felt heartbroken and helpless, he put his hand on her head to comfort her, stroked her hair and said. She is her, servant is just a way of calling, it will not be the only adjective to describe her, she does not like the mark, we can erase it. Dees heard the mark being erased, stopped crying, muttered, can the mark be erased, dig it out. Lu Feng heard Dees not believing him, so he explained confidently. No need, just leave this matter to me, don't think about it anymore. You are a citizen of this Xiang city, the patrol team leader appointed by me, even if you are a servant, even if the whole world doesn't need you. But I do. Dees heard Lu Feng's affectionate words, her face flushed, her voice trembling, really, really. Lu Feng happily replied, her voice was playful, of course, have I ever lied to you? Dees seemed to have decided something, tiptoed, and touched her lips to Lu Feng's. The scene between the two people emitted a pink color, the air filled with an ambiguous smell. Lu Feng and the others all widened their eyes, stunned, looking at this scene in disbelief. What's wrong with Dees today? He kissed her and said, young master, thank you. Ellie regained her composure and shouted, "Ah, this buffalo, how could she kiss the young master?" Dees didn't care, ignoring the objections. "Isn't kissing a sign of wanting to be intimate? It's just a kiss to the young master, what's the big deal?" Ellie was even more angry at Dees' shamelessness. "Ah, I have to kill you." In the western prison, groans were heard. In the prison there was a man tied to the wall. His body was covered with wounds from the torture he had received over the past few days. This was the fatty who had been arrested a few days ago. Lu Feng saw that he was still refusing to confess, so he personally questioned him about his position in the Black Iris organization and who had come up with that plan. He still defended himself. "City Lord, I've said it many times. I'm just a cloth merchant who came to this western city to do business. I don't know anything about Black Iris. You persecuted a commoner, and you have nothing in your hands." Seeing that he was stubborn and refused to cooperate, they questioned him, and he said he was an innocent civilian. Then why did he hide when Mina entered the house to arrest him? Moreover, what kind of fabric merchant would stay in the inn all day and never go to the fabric shop? He still made excuses. "Of course I was scared, running away was just a temporary rebellion. The reason I stayed in the inn and didn't go out was because my subordinates helped me with the work." How could Lu Feng believe it? He said, "Stop arguing. The first day you entered the city, the security bureau noticed you spreading rumors and finding people to secretly follow Dees to gather information. Do you think that what you did was not seen by others? I'm letting you off. I just want to find an opportunity to beat you all up at once." He knew that the matter had been exposed, and stopped pretending. He shouted at Lu Feng and said, "You already know everything, why are you here talking nonsense? Even if I die, I will not reveal any information about Black Iris." Captain Sink saw him being disrespectful to the city lord, so he immediately took action. Sink punched him in the stomach, blood spurting out. Lu Feng saw that he couldn't get any more information, so he turned around and left. He didn't forget to tell Sink, "Don't die so soon, it's not a pity for someone like him to die, but he still has value, take him down." Sink replied, "Yes." In the square of the western city, the bell rang loudly, summoning the people of the western city. Everyone gathered, wondering what was going on. The fat man and his subordinates were tied up and kneeling on the platform in front of the people. Someone recognized the fat man and said, "Isn't that Mr. Zich? Why was he taken to the execution ground and hanged?" Others were also suspicious. "That's right. Could it be that he broke some law?" The people below were talking, one person was talking, another person was talking, noisily discussing. Lu Feng announced to everyone, "Everyone, I am Lu Feng, the city lord of Xiang City. Some of you know me, some of you don't, but it's okay, today everyone knows me." The people below laughed, "Ha ha ha." Lu Feng saw that everyone was happy and continued, "The prosperity that Xiang City has now is all due to everyone's efforts. In the future, Xiang City will become better and better, no longer allowing people to be poor or homeless, and even allowing them to receive formal education for free." Lu Feng raised his hand and stood on the stage to announce loudly. Everyone below already knew about Lu Feng's actions, and also knew that with Lu Feng, their lives would improve. They shouted in unison, "Long live the city lord, long live the city lord, long live, long live, long live." Lu Feng replied with a stern face, but then pointed at the human traffickers and said, "Human traffickers don't let us live peaceful days." The people below were startled and panicked. Human traffickers, Mr. Zich was a human trafficker. Luckily, I had not had much contact with him. I said that they did not do any business all day. They did not look like merchants. It turned out that they had come to this western city with an evil intention. Lu Feng listed their crimes in detail. These human traffickers were clearly physically strong and had all their limbs, yet they engaged in such lowly occupations. They did not use their hands to work to create wealth, but instead committed cruel acts in order to plot for money. Because of the bottomless greed of these human traffickers, so many people have had to leave their wives and children, their homes destroyed. Your relatives, friends, and lovers have all become slaves, turned into objects to be bought and sold. They cannot take you back, nor dare to take you back, because they feel humiliated by their slave status. Not long ago, they were also like you, also free civilians. Those who were once slaves heard Lu Feng's words, and looked back at themselves, thinking of their relatives, friends, and lovers, and felt heartache. Everyone was in tears, looking at the traffickers with hatred. They shouted in unison, "Beat the traffickers to death, hateful traffickers, beat them to death." The people kept cursing, some even threw stones at them. Seeing everyone so excited, Lu Feng announced some good news. In our western city, many people who were formerly slaves have been restored to their status as free civilians. Then Lu Feng shouted at the former slaves, "Raise your heads. You don't need to be ashamed, you don't need to care. You were civilians before, now you will also be restored to your original status, you are all free. The people are free, I give you a new life, the slave mark on your hands, I will help you erase. Give you a truly free life." Everyone is surprised, everyone is happy. Some people were still confused and asked, "City Lord, are you telling the truth? Can you really help us erase the slave mark?" Lu Feng replied, "Of course, as long as you are free citizens, you can take your ID card, go to the tattoo shop next to the police station, and ask them to cover up that slave mark." The people below shouted in unison, "This is great, this is great." Mina saw that and hugged Disa's shoulder and said, "That's great." Seeing that everything was settled, Lu Feng declared, "Now I announce the death penalty for the traffickers. Hang, immediate execution." The traffickers were hanged, the sound of painful groans rang out, but no one cared, all around were sounds of joy and happiness. At the tattoo shop in Xi'an, Lu Feng held a needle and said, "First draw the image on the place that needs to be tattooed. Then insert the needle containing the color into the skin, pay attention, before tattooing, don't forget to disinfect the needle, be sure to boil it in boiling water, then use disinfectant alcohol to wash it." As he spoke, Lu Feng drew a colored tattoo for Dis. Everyone around gathered around to watch, eyes wide open, witnessing the miracle that happened. Lu Feng continued, comforting Dis, "It might hurt but just bear with it for a bit and it would be fine." Disa's face turned red, she couldn't help but hope for the new tattoo. The apprentice beside him, seeing Lu Feng's skillful movements, his eyes lit up as if they were stars, and he took notes of what Lu Feng said. Lu Feng continued to analyze, human skin can be divided into the epidermis and the subcutaneous layer. The epidermis can heal very quickly, but the inner layer of skin cannot. Therefore, when tattooing, a needle must be used to puncture the epidermis, then insert it into the inner layer of skin, so that the tattoo will last longer. The apprentice standing next to him, as if he understood everything, said, "It turns out that human skin has 2 layers. When practicing on pig skin, the city lord kept telling him to pierce the second layer. It turns out that this tattoo artist's name is Dai Luke." Dis blushed when she saw the tattoo Lu Feng had done for her. She exclaimed, "It was so beautiful." It was an angel wing, the white color stood out against Disa's skin. Everyone cheered, the slave mark was gone. Everyone raised their hands and said, "I want to get a tattoo too." Someone else said, "It's my turn this time, I want to get a tattoo for a dog, I'm ready." The tattoo artist quickly said, "Don't be in a hurry, one person at a time, everyone gets a tattoo." In a certain cave, a man standing 2 meters tall and 1 meter wide, with strong muscles and fierce eyes shouted and stopped. "This is the Black Knife Giant clan." Kimo said in a gentle and respectful voice, "Lord Black Knife, I have something to see the leader about." A voice from inside called out, letting her in. Black Knife replied, "Yes." Black Iris, the leader of the room. Kimo eagerly reported, "Leader, the plan of the Red Steward in the Western City failed. I would like to take over the business in Taeduong City." "Don't worry, leader. Last time was due to negligence. This time it will definitely not be like that." The person Kimo called leader, without even turning around, coldly ordered. "Her mission is to quickly find a good item, our big boss, can't wait any longer." Kimo was worried, and hesitated for a moment to answer. "But don't be too hasty, the situation is chaotic recently, the Western City is densely wooded, rest assured, Lu Feng doesn't need us to do anything." As soon as she spoke, the gecko in her hand ate the butterfly that flew over. At the outskirts of Xi'an, the military training ground, the leader of the soldiers was watching his troops running with all their might in the distance and loudly shouted, "You guys are elites who have passed the first level, yet this is all your speed can do." In the distance, several soldiers' faces were blue and purple from running so hard, but they still had to endure, their hearts felt like they wanted to run out of their chests to run with them. The troop commander stood still and shouted from afar, "I can tell you clearly. The number of new recruits this time is up to 300. Among the 700 or so of you, any one of you can be eliminated. The army doesn't need weaklings, lazy people, or worms who come and eat and die. Don't you think so? None of the trainees want to be eliminated. Some of them really need this job. Once eliminated, they'll have nowhere to go or go hungry. They don't want to go back to the hard days of the past." They all said in unison, "No." The commander shouted, "Then run for your life for me." All seemed to be given more strength to shout loudly, "AAA," and run away as if something was behind. In the distance, Lu Feng, Mina, and Ellie were standing watching. Mina the cat wondered, "Why don't we recruit more people in the West?" Ellie glanced over with her big blue eyes and replied, "Not for now. The Western City is already at its limit supporting over 700 people. We have to wait until early spring to recruit more." Lu Feng added from the side, Ellie was right. But the 700 plus soldiers plus the goblin assault team were already enough to risk their lives against the nobles. There was no need to rush to expand the army. A soldier walked over. He raised his hand and saluted. "Lord City. The Research Institute sent word that Lord Fangs had created a new anesthetic. Please come and see." Lu Feng turned around in surprise. "So fast? Very good. Let's go and see now. Mina looked up from behind at Lu Feng, the assassin who used poison last time. Lu Feng smiled and replied. I didn't expect that Fang's guy to be so talented in the field of drug research. Mina seemed to have the instincts of a cat. She was alert. She was a little suspicious. Fangs had only started his research a few days ago. And he had succeeded so quickly. Could it be that he was up to something? Ellie added. I think so too. Young master, you should be more careful. 2 hands placed on Mina and Ellie's heads and rubbed them. Lu Feng looked at the 2 girls in front of him and smiled. Don't worry. The research institute has already sent the news that the others have already done the initial check. There won't be any problems. Mina and Ellie didn't know what else to say. They reluctantly nodded. Yes. Lu Feng touched his chin and continued. But the 2 of them had already reminded me. Although the assassination attempt was discovered before it was carried out. But it was true that the protection of the city government had to be strengthened. Who knows, maybe the bounty people would send assassins to assassinate me at that time. After speaking, Lu Feng turned to ask Mina. That's right. Last time, I paid attention to choosing suitable guards. Did it work? Mina replied. The security bureau has temporarily selected 4 people. All of them have clean backgrounds. Their backgrounds are clear. I have a high opinion of a bearkin named Gaba. Let me tell you. This Gaba is currently working in the textile industry. Honest attitude. Hardworking. Currently living with a disabled sister. Very loving and protective of her. Good character and ability. Lu Feng said with a satisfied expression. Pay special attention. Find a chance to test her skills. Mina smiled and replied. I know. After talking, the 3 of them went to the reception room at the Research Institute in Taeduong City. The 3 of them just entered the room. At the same time, seeing the person in front of them, hundreds of questions simultaneously appeared in their minds. The 3 people's faces were also dumbfounded at the same time. Their eyes were also in turmoil. Lu Feng spoke. He was Fangs. How did he become like this? Fangs's expression now was no different from a madman. His eyes were wide open, bloodshot. He spoke in a strange voice. This is not important. Lord City. This is the new type of anesthetic that I created. It has a very strong anesthetic effect. Just cut open the wound, add a very small amount of the drug and you will lose consciousness after 5 seconds. Lu Feng asked. He said that it can take 5 seconds to lose consciousness, so is there any danger to humans? The old man smiled and replied, City Lord, there is no danger. You will just feel dizzy. I have personally tried it. How big of a wound does it need to be? What dosage should I use? Old Fangs replied. The wound is as big as a pinhole, and can knock someone out for about 30 seconds. If you use a small knife to cut it, it will knock the person out for a day. When they wake up, they will have a terrible headache. Lu Feng was as if he had struck gold. He shouted happily. Very good. He had made a great achievement. Having said that, he turned to the little girl Ellie. Ellie, give me the paper and pen. Yes, master. Lu Feng took the paper and pen from Ellie and wrote something on the paper. He wrote while giving instructions. Mina, take this to the military construction site. Tell them to quickly manufacture it. Mina took the paper and looked at it. This is. Lu Feng explained. Blowing needles, if used in conjunction with anesthetics, would be a hidden weapon that would be difficult to guard against. Mina listened attentively to the lecture as if absorbing new knowledge. Her eyes widened in surprise. Lu Feng turned to Fangs and praised him. Fangs, you did a great job this time. If you need anything, just ask, consider it my reward. Fangs shook his head, tears falling from the corners of his eyes. He placed his hand on his chest and said softly, City Lord. I am already very grateful that you did not kill me but instead employed me. The atmosphere in the research institute is very good. I can devote myself to researching and concocting my anesthetic. Life is much more enjoyable than being an assassin before. Lu Feng smiled and replied. That's good. Fangs continued hesitantly. But Lord Lu Feng. The Bounty Guild will not spare you. They will definitely send someone to assassinate you again. You must be more careful. Mina, Ellie and Sink were all startled, their expressions slightly serious. Lu Feng calmly replied. Don't worry. If they want to come, I can't stop them. But if they want to assassinate me, it won't be that easy. At the same time in Lima City, Bounty Guild. Count Puli's son, Sharo, had shoulder-length blonde hair, sword-like eyebrows, and blue eyes. He slammed the table. His face was a little angry as he asked. "This mission is not complete. How long has this been going on?" The blonde maid with her hair tied up in a bun standing beside her softly replied. "Assassin Fangs was assigned to assassinate Lu Feng. It has been a long time since he sent any news. There is a high chance that he has failed. I will spread the news. A new assassin will take on this task soon. This time the assassin will be stronger." Sharo clenched his fists and found the assassin without killing Lu Feng. Of course, breaking his arms and legs was fine. "I wanted the person. I just wanted to make him look stupid." The maid beside him lowered her eyes and asked. "From assassination to kidnapping. Are you sure?" Sharo smiled smugly. "I'm sure." He thought to himself. It only took a few months to become the West. From a backward city to develop into a bustling city. This Lu Feng must have something special. He has such ability. It would be a waste to kill him. Why not capture him and put him to work? Think of a plan to help me. Thinking of this, Sharo couldn't help but curl the corners of his lips. The maid beside him looked a little disgusted. "Want to change the mission? Please pay 10 gold coins as a mission change fee. This service is also surprising." Sharo folded his arms and smiled. "No problem. A person like him is not short of money. He is the son of a count. A house on the main street with a big father. What is there to be afraid of?" The maid went to another room. Lifted the curtain. Looked at the woman in red before her and said. "Fifth Deacon. Viscount Sharo has already paid 130 gold coins. But the reward is only 50 gold coins. The amount of money that the 7th Deacon has embezzled is too much. No wonder the mission failed. Bounty Guild." The 5th Deacon propped his chin with one hand. He replied coldly. She sent a message to the 7th Deacon. "Tell him to vomit up the money he swallowed. Otherwise, this mission will not be completed." After saying that, she picked up a piece of paper and looked at it with a sly smile. But this western city is really interesting. It has developed so quickly in just a few short months. The city lord must have some tricks up his sleeve. The maid beside her replied. "Lord 5th Deacon. If you are interested in Xi'an City, I can help change the mission. Tell our men to go capture that Lu Feng." The 5th Deacon suddenly stopped, thinking about something, then waved his hand. "No need for a head. Just a noble from the western city. Just leave it to those money-driven assassins and hunters. The main goal of this organization is to compete for the new king." Yes. At this time, at the gate of the western city, a girl with blue hair walked to the gate and observed. "The city walls here are too magnificent. No wonder capturing a city lord can get 130 gold coins." She quickly shook her head to regain her composure. But coming here to do the mission was just a convenience. Finding little was the important thing. It turned out that this was the assassin sent by Bounty. She went inside the city. In the western city, she looked around in confusion and suddenly felt like she was lost in a luxurious and prosperous place. The blue eyes exclaimed. What's wrong with this city? The royal city isn't that luxurious. Moreover, the beastmen are talking happily with humans. Am I hallucinating? She saw 2 bear sisters walking on the side of the road talking. The younger sister looked up at her older sister with big round eyes and worriedly said. "Sister, do we really have to go to the drunken tower to eat? Isn't that too wasteful?" The older sister beside her bowed her head and smiled softly. "Don't worry, this month's salary is 10 coins more than last month's. You can rest assured and have a delicious meal." Suddenly, there was a sound of someone coming from behind. "The thing is, please excuse me for a moment." The 2 bear sisters heard someone calling their name. Gaba and Nuayu turned back to look. The older sister saw that the person in front of her was a bit dangerous, so she instinctively stood in front of the younger bear and bared her teeth and claws. "What's wrong?" The blue-eyed assassin waved her hand urgently. "Don't panic. Don't panic." She pointed to the black bandage on her head and said, "I am also a beastman. I want to ask why humans and beastmen here can live together so peacefully. Is there no one oppressing you?" Gaba replied immediately. "How could someone bully us? You think too much." Nuayu beside her laughed and said. "Is this your first time in Xi'an City? This is the miracle city of the beastmen." The blue-eyed girl on the other side stroked her chin and said. "A miracle? How could this be?" It was obvious that humans hated beastmen. The 2 sisters faced each other indifferently, raising their hands to each side and shaking their heads. How would we know this? But surely the city lord knows. After all, this entire city was created by him. Her eyes looked doubtful. Yes. The lord is a very great noble. The elder sister Gaba nodded repeatedly in agreement with her younger sister's opinion. That's right. That's right. Nuwa Yu continued. Unlike other nobles, he is very kind to us beastmen. You will know after living in Xi'an City for a few days. The blue-eyed assassin had a few question marks around him. As if he couldn't process the strange information. Human nobility. Very good to beastmen. This is the first time I've heard that. Nuwa Yu guessed that she had grasped the situation. She immediately said. If there is nothing else, we will go first. We still have to eat. The blue eyes looked up. Yes. Thank you both. Gaba also smiled and raised his hand in farewell. It's okay, it's okay. We're all beastmen, so we should help each other. The assassin closed his eyes and looked troubled. This time, this was troublesome. He didn't expect that the lord of Xi'an City would treat the beastmen equally. If he were to corner this person, the beastmen living here would be affected. Who knows, this harmonious atmosphere might be broken. She put her hands on her head and sat down. She screamed in her heart. Honestly, if I didn't have to find Little, I wouldn't have accepted this mission. It's so confusing. Is this going to be my first failed mission? Suddenly, a soft female voice came from afar. Lord Lu Feng. I'm hungry. A deep male voice rang out. We're almost there. Just bear with it a little longer. She suddenly realized this was Little's voice. She quickly turned her head to look. In front of her was a carriage. There were soldiers guarding it. Everyone on the street looked at the carriage and bowed to it. It was the city lord's carriage. The city lord. Everyone on the street had a hint of excitement in their voices. A hint of respect and a hint of loyalty. The carriage and the assassin passed each other by. She immediately guessed that the voice just now belonged to Little. But why was Little with the lord of Xi'an City? Moreover, with Little's personality, he wouldn't call anyone else sir except his eldest sister. She clenched her fists and looked at the silhouette of the carriage disappearing at the end of the road under the warm blue sky. It seemed like she would have to sneak into the city tonight to see what was going on. At the city lord's mansion in Taeduong City, darkness had already covered every corner of the city. The wind began to blow strongly. On the wall, the girl with blue eyes now had a pair of wings appearing behind her. She stood from above, the bright moonlight shining down on the scene below in an illusory way. These soldiers patrolled constantly. She looked around for a moment and then made a hum. There was a window in front, and outside there was a platform, which was suitable for landing. As soon as she thought of it, she spread her wings and flew over. The patrol team on guard below did not detect any intruder. Her hands quickly grabbed the pedestal, then held her upper body with both hands, and let out a sigh. Luckily she knew how to fly. Otherwise, it would be impossible for someone else to sneak in here so easily without making any noise. Suddenly, a voice came from inside the window. Who was she? The winged assassin immediately raised his eyes and looked inside, exclaiming. Inside, Lu Feng was sitting majestically on a chair. Mina, who was standing beside him, saw the stranger and, like a cat, cautiously pulled out a knife from behind her back. The three people's eyes met. Mina quickly walked up and put a knife to the stranger's neck, forcing her to come in. Mina glared at the person in front of her and said, Young master, it is very possible that she is an assassin sent to assassinate you. The assassin said, If you catch me, I have nothing to say, just kill me. Mina looked up with sharp eyes and spoke harshly. She thought I wouldn't dare. Lu Feng quickly stopped her. Mina, wait. At the same time, the door slammed open, accompanied by Ellie's voice. Young master, we're done soaking in the hot water, do you want to go soak? He was about to continue when he stopped. Everyone in the room looked out the door at the same time. There were 4 people outside. Thea, Avery, Ellie and Flay also looked in. The 5 people's eyes met. What happened? Avery didn't wait for an answer. Seeing Mina's knife against the stranger's neck, he knew what was happening. He immediately jumped forward to protect Ellie. The princess was in danger. Back off. Flay looked out from behind Ellie like a kitten. He opened his blue eyes wide and exclaimed. Milla. The stranger with the knife to his neck also exclaimed. Flay, you are really here. Flay ran over. Milla, is that you? Lu Feng stood beside him with his arms crossed and asked. Flay, what is this person's relationship with you? Flay immediately replied. My friend. Lu Feng heard that and immediately turned to the side. Nina, let her go. Yes, young master. Flay quickly thanked Lord Lu Feng. Having let go of her neck, Milla quickly ran to Flay's side. She held the small shoulders in front of her with both hands, worried. Finally found you. Flay, how dare you run away from home? Flay immediately replied. I'm looking for your big sister. Has she returned yet? Milla smiled and replied. Of course she did. She didn't see me. She was so worried that she beat everyone up. Come on, let's go back to your sister. As she spoke, Milla held out her hand. The petite figure in front suddenly retreated. Milla exclaimed in surprise. Flay. Flay lowered his eyes and walked away in a low voice. He didn't want to go home. Milla stood up quickly. Flay, do you know what you're saying? Everyone is worried about you. Flay lowered his head and quickly ran behind Lu Feng, tightly hugging the city lord's arm. His eyes looked forward with some guilt. I said, I don't want to go back. Milla got angry when she heard that. Flay, stop teasing me. If my big sister knew that I found you, she would be very happy. Now you say you're not coming back. After saying that, she pointed her finger at Lu Feng, the city lord, and said, Flay, are you being threatened by this guy? Flay stood behind, sticking his head out and shaking his head. Milla gritted her teeth in anger. Flay, you. Suddenly, the door opened. Nicole peeked her head in and saw a strange sight. She went in and asked, what's wrong? Lu Feng let out a breath and explained. Nicole, this is Milla, Flay's friend. She took her downstairs to treat her wounds first, then arranged a blanket for her. She would sleep with Flay tonight. Nina still felt uncomfortable hearing that. Nicole listened to Lu Feng's orders and replied. Yes, young master. Nina also said to Lu Feng. Young master, I will also go and see. Lu Feng said immediately. This is their business. We should not interfere. Via looked regretful. Hesitant. Could it be that Flay would leave with Milla? Ellie below smiled and replied. Don't worry. There's so much delicious food following the young master. Flay couldn't bear to leave. Lu Feng stood by and continued. This depends on Flay's thoughts. I assure everyone, if Flay doesn't want to go, no one will be able to take her away. A moment later, Milla sat by the bed. Her eyes looked at Flay worriedly. Flay, did that noble threaten you? Or did he get a hold of something? Flay shook his head and said. No, the city lord is very good to me. I voluntarily stay here. Milla looked up as if she was looking at a stranger. Flay, you've changed. You're no longer a qualified assassin. If Big Sister finds out about you like this, she'll be disappointed. She'll come looking for you herself. Flay looked up and wondered. Was the mission of the elder sister completed? Nina lowered her eyes. We failed. We lost more than 20 brothers and sisters. Even the eldest sister was injured. Flay was sad too. Was that really a dragon? Was it worth her effort? Milla turned and shook her head. I don't know either. Big Sister doesn't have her own plans either. Flay, are you really not going back with me? Flay lay down on the soft mattress. She quickly turned her back to Milla and fell asleep. Milla was also helpless behind her inside. Early the next morning, Milla had her first good night's sleep. When she woke up, the sun was already high in the sky. She yawned, then stretched comfortably. Milla looked to the side, thinking to herself, this is the first time she's slept so comfortably. No wonder Flay doesn't want to go home. Even when she slept, Flay's weapon was always by her side, she still hadn't forgotten her identity as an assassin. Thinking of this, she clenched her hands into fists, she had to bring this child back. They both woke up and went to the dining room. Milla looked around. Although it was a dining room, everything was shining brightly as if it was gilded. Above, there was a chandelier shining down with sparkling light. As expected of a noble, she knew how to enjoy life. However, Flay was an assassin. If she continued to live here, her assassin skills would gradually fade away. Thinking of this, Milla looked at Lu Feng and said, City Lord, I don't know what Flay owes you. I can help Flay repay the favor. I hope you can let her go. Flay heard that and immediately turned around and raised her voice, No, I don't want to go back. She thought to herself, if I go back now, I will only cause more trouble. Milla heard that and looked down at Flay, a little angry and shouted, Why can't I? Don't you want to go back to see your big sister, see everyone? Flay seemed to want to say something more but she really didn't know what to say, it wasn't that she didn't want to see everyone again. Lu Feng turned back to stop her. Wait, why did Miss Milla have to bring Flay back? Mina immediately replied, because only when Flay was with her eldest sister could she learn killing skills. Lu Feng crossed his arms and leisurely asked, so how much have you learned? Mina quickly replied, I have already learned 40% from my eldest sister. Lu Feng immediately shook his head and said, but in my opinion, you're not even a standard assassin. Mina heard that and shouted, what did you say? Lu Feng folded her arms and explained, she thought a qualified assassin would be easily captured by us last night like her. Milla lowered her head a little embarrassed, it was because my condition yesterday was not good. Lu Feng saw that she was wrong and still argued, so he said, if you are not convinced, then I will give you a chance to compete. If you lose, you must admit that you are not a qualified assassin, and you cannot force Flay to come back. Milla quickly agreed, okay, if you lose, you can't stop me from taking Flay home. Flay seemed reluctant to agree, so he said, City Lord. Lu Feng waved his hand to interrupt, no problem, let's just decide like this. 3 games out of 2, the content of this competition is up to you. Milla seemed to grasp the opportunity in her hand and smiled triumphantly, then you lose, first match, we compete in disguise. 3 days later, in the distant forest, the sun shone on the sparse forest, below there were many trees but absolutely no leaves. Above the ground was a trap, it was a hole camouflaged as if covered with many branches but it was as if there was none. It turned out that Milla was below the pit, looking through the cracks laughing, there were many dead trees and lava forests exposed here. As long as I took advantage of the terrain, hiding in the lava pit covered by dead trees, I definitely wouldn't be discovered. She was laughing smugly when a shadow fell over her. A blonde soldier removed the branches above her with his hand and said with a smile, Miss Milla, come out here. Milla suddenly stood up, eyes wide open, how could the camouflage technique that her eldest sister taught her be so easily discovered? The soldier immediately clasped his hands and bowed before Lu Fengde, the city lord. Miss Milla hid in the lava pit covered by dry branches, but the surrounding environment was quite clean, and the hiding place was very high up. Milla beside him was like a petrified woman, slightly confused. Lu Feng turned around and said, 7 minutes, that's fine. Number 2, next it's your turn to disguise. Yes. Lu Feng turned to the person beside him and said, I'm looking for you. 2 columns of smoke came out from above Milla's head. She immediately ran away and searched. My eldest sister taught me a lot of ways to find people. Elsewhere outside the forest, Lu Feng and Sink along with the beast girls were at a picnic, leisurely and happily eating an outdoor feast. Suddenly, from the side, Milla walked over panting. I lost, I can't find it at all. Lu Feng curled his lips and ordered, Sink, bring number 2 here. Yes. After a minute, the 2 of them returned, my lord. Lu Feng immediately said number 2, told her how he hid himself. Number 2 immediately answered honestly, yes. Not far away there was a pile of rubble, I started burying them from the feet with the rubble, I buried the whole person. Milla's eyes widened, mouth agape, impossible, I searched that place, there was no one hiding there. Number 2 turned around and replied innocently, yes, down there I felt Miss Milla come twice, she just didn't notice me. Milla felt like she was falling into a deep hole, she felt like a failure, she knelt down with a heavy heart. But very quickly, her eyes sparkled and she regained her fighting spirit. She seized the next opportunity, and continued with the second match. At a distance of 1,000 meters, to see who could attack the mission target first. I'll go all out this time, be careful. In the second match, the next soldier holding the bow and Milla holding the knife stood at the finish line. The voice of preparation rang out, everyone tensed up and looked forward. Start, the sound just sounded, Milla like a train smoking and rushed forward as fast as the wind. She turned her head to look at the people behind her smugly, secretly laughing in her heart. The farthest distance an arrow could attack was no more than a few hundred meters. She was sure to win this game. The platinum-haired soldier raised his bow without haste. Milla held the knife in her hand and looked at the strawman target in front of her, secretly pleased, she had succeeded. Suddenly an arrow flew in front of her, it quickly pierced through the target. Milla suddenly stopped, stared blankly at the arrow, then turned back. What? How could this be? Lu Feng crossed her arms and calmly said, she had already lost the 3 games in February. From now on, she must not force Flay to come back. Milla returned, her face sad as death in her heart. She was still stubborn with her love for the assassin profession that she had not lost, she smiled awkwardly, Lord, 3rd match, let's have one more match. In the dining room, Nicole brought the food to the table and told Lu Feng, the young master, that it was ready according to his request. Lu Feng looked at the plate of food in front of him and smiled, yes, you've worked hard. Milla looked at the plate with a tomato and a bowl of soup and thought, this. Mina said from the side, young master, Milla has already lost 2 matches, there is no need to fight anymore. You don't need to worry about it. Lu Feng thought to himself, this match is not about winning against Milla. The match was simply used as bait to lure Flay's sister. If the entire bird race could be made to work for Xi'an City, then the difficult problem of building an air force would be solved once and for all. After thinking, Lu Feng looked around and said, "Everyone, this lunch is the third match." Milla was confused. "Wait, I said the third match was assassination, how did it become lunch?" Lu Feng explained, "There are many types of assassination, poisoning food is also one of them, doesn't Miss Milla know?" Milla quickly said, Of course I know, but you've already mentioned poisoning, if I don't eat anymore, then your assassination will fail." Lu Feng smiled, "That's true, but I didn't poison the food in the first place." The people in front were stunned, a series of questions appeared, everyone's eyes widened, not knowing where the poison could be. Lu Feng continued, "Why don't you personally test it out, Miss Milla? If there's poison, then my assassination failed. If there's no poison, then consider it as me treating you to lunch. Also, I'll give a lecture to everyone while I'm at it. Eat." Milla quickly took out a needle, thinking to herself, her eldest sister had once taught her to use a silver needle to test for poison. If the needle turns black, the food is poisonous. Thinking of this, Milla pricked the tomato with the needle. She raised the needle, the platinum color remained unchanged. Could it be that there really was no poison in the food? Flay was talking while eating, "This porridge is very delicious, don't worry, the young master won't harm us." Milla heard that and immediately scooped a spoonful and put it in her mouth. Her expression suddenly changed, her eyes sparkled as if she had tasted a delicacy, this porridge was so delicious. In a moment, she and Flay had finished all the food on their plates, their stomachs bloated. Milla let out a breath and exclaimed, "This is delicious." Milla turned to Lu Feng and said, "I have tried every bowl of porridge and every tomato, and none of them are poisonous. Up until now, I have not seen anything unusual. It seems that this time, my lord, you have lost." Lu Feng curled his lips, clasped his hands together on the table, closed his eyes and smiled, "Really?" Suddenly, there was a groan. Master, my stomach hurts so much." Ellie groaned in pain, her face turning purple. Beside, Avery and Flay also held their stomachs, their faces dark. Me too. All of us held our stomachs and cried. Lu Feng laughed to tears, laughing, "Ha ha ha ha," and handed Mina a tomato. Mina reached out to take it, seeing her city lord laughing so loudly, she asked in confusion, "What's wrong with them?" Milla also started to hold her stomach was a little painful, no way, if there was a laxative then she would know. She stared at the empty plate of food, she didn't believe it. Behind her, Avery and Ellie ran quickly towards the bathroom and complained, I'm going to the bathroom." Lu Feng looked at the tomato in his hand and smiled, "Because I didn't poison it at all. Everything in this world has a mutual relationship, and food is no exception. If you eat a large amount of two foods that have a mutual relationship, it will cause a stomachache at best, and poisoning at worst. The amount of food that beastmen eat is several times greater than that of humans, so you guys were tricked." Milla suddenly understood, "So tomatoes and crabs are incompatible, I ate them and then felt uncomfortable. This is hard to guard against, there are other incompatibilities too." Lu Feng stood up and said, "This is a secret that cannot be revealed, if you want to know the secret, tell Sister Flay to come find me." Milla held her stomach and was dumbfounded. Flay beside her also stood up and continued, "No, sister is very formidable." Lu Feng came over and patted Flay's head, gently saying, "It's okay, they are sisters, we have to meet once, moreover there is something we need to discuss." After saying that, he and Mina turned away, leaving instructions, "Okay, I'm full so I'm going to work, everyone rest." Mina and Lu Feng sent Milla to the city gate. Milla looked at the two and said, "This time I was convinced of my defeat, but this is a matter of my own ability, there is no need to doubt the strength of the eldest sister. This time I will go back alone first, when the eldest sister arrives, Flay will definitely follow her back." Mina secretly judged in her heart, are all the bird people crazy about the eldest sister? Lu Feng continued, "Flay is a free person, at least in my place, no one can force her to do anything. Even though she is still young, she already has her own thoughts. So no matter what decision she makes, we will support her unconditionally." Milla felt relieved when she heard that. Okay, you take good care of the baby, I will bring the eldest sister here." Lu Feng nodded and smiled. "Okay, be careful on the road." Milla turned her back and walked away for a bit, then stopped. She turned her head and said, "For the sake of you taking care of Flay, I'll tell you clearly. Actually, I was the one assigned to kidnap you." Milla quickly rushed forward like a cat, raised her claws, and took out two knives and held them in front of her. "What? Kidnapping?" Milla turned back to explain, "Yes, the Bounty Guild's mission is to kidnap the Lord of Xi'an City, and deliver him early tomorrow morning in the forest on the eastern edge of Xi'an City. But I also don't know who placed the order." Lu Feng thought to himself, kidnapping, could it be that the person who placed the order this time and Fang's previous assassination attempt were not the same person? He immediately said, "It's okay, thank you for telling me. Miss Milla." Mina said, young master, last night the secret police sent news that there is a cavalry unit of more than 200 people heading west. They have now reached Beifeng City, and it seems that the route they are on will take them to Xi'an City tomorrow. Could it be that they have some connection with the kidnappers? At the same time, in the east of Xi'an City, a man with a thick red beard and hair, riding a horse beside Sharo, looked towards the gate of Xi'an City and said, I heard that in recent months, Xi'an City has developed very quickly, and its defenses have also been strengthened. If a scout from Xi'an City discovers us and then strengthens its defenses, then it won't be easy to handle. We'd better leave now and beat him to the punch. Baron Sharo replied, you uncultured bunch are really stupid. If we attack head-on, our knights will be harmed no matter what. I have sent people to kidnap the lord of Xi'an City long ago. Without the lord, I can take the city without spending a single soldier or pawn. The red-haired guard looked angry and annoyed. He thought his calculation was the right move, but it wasn't. After 5 hours of waiting at the pre-arranged location with the Bounty Guild, Baron Sharo no longer had the patience to wait another second or minute. He gritted his teeth and said, damn it. He clearly said he would hand over the person this morning, but it was already afternoon and there was still no sign of him. The red-haired guard speculated, perhaps the kidnapping was unsuccessful, we should retreat first. If the kidnapping was unsuccessful, then the other party must have been on guard. I'm afraid their defenses will have been increased during this time. Hearing this, Baron Sharo, with his face full of anger, his mouth gaped open, his eyes wide open with red veins, shouted loudly, no withdrawal. It's almost the day that father gave me the deadline. If I don't take the western city, I'm done for. Damn the Bounty Guild. They clearly guaranteed to complete the mission. When we take the western city, I'll destroy this guild. He drew his sword and pointed it straight up to the sky to show his power and determination to conquer the western citadel. Sharo continued, I have 300 knights, I don't believe we can't conquer the western citadel. Let's set out immediately to conquer the western citadel. The guard knelt on the ground as if he had received his master's order. He placed his hands across his chest and bowed his head respectfully. Understood. I swear to die to fulfill Viscount Sharo's orders. Then Baron Sharo and his army of 300 knights marched into the western city. At this moment, before their eyes appeared two tall cliffs standing like walls. The red-haired guard said that after passing this gorge, we are only 2 kilometers away from the western city. Once we get out, we must prepare for battle. Baron Sharo replied. That is for you to decide. I do not know how to fight. With that, they continued on their way. But before he had passed the canyon, the guard suddenly realized something was wrong. All big. There is an ambush. Sure enough, on both sides of the canyon, silhouettes of soldiers and giant boulders were placed there, waiting for the knights to pass by and roll down. The red-haired guard had just finished speaking when huge boulders rolled down, creating a catastrophic hailstorm, leaving the knights who were planning to attack this western city without any time to react. Seeing that the situation was not looking good at all, the guard ordered everyone. Run. Run quickly. Baron Sharo prodded his horse with his whip. The red-haired squire shouted. Run. The rocks fell to the ground and the sound of the army running created a white smoke in the air. They ran with all their might. Stopping at the forest, Baron Sharo calmed down. Breathed a sigh of relief. He said, why is this happening? Why are there rocks? They thought they had escaped danger. Then what was that? What was appearing before their eyes? Oh my God! It was the soldiers of Tai Duong Citadel.